Money is not the root of all evil. It's love of money. That's the root of all evil. Right, yes or no? Vibes, live. Everything, plum and berry. Keep a close eye on the devil. Higher state of consciousness with the revel. Papa Curry, yeah, we tell the people. Pounds and pence, dollars and cents. Most important sense, the common sense. But enough man bends, they don't know the difference. Fatal flaw, them have to pay the consequence. You have pounds and pence, dollars and cents. Most important sense. That common sense, but enough man bends, don't know the difference. Fatal fly, them up to the pay the consequence. You say the grass greener, on the next side of the fence. For a few dollars more, and it pays them like that they met them, robbing them with them sister, them friends, and them parents. Yet them still content, fool no nobody dog.
Yeah, Ezekiel call them dry bones. One must know, men have lost their course on a tourboat, drift from shore without anchor and rope, unsecure, amazing the battery. Wind on the trade waters, Golgotha's Titanic, egotistic big ship got rapture, self-destruct disaster out there on the
Christopher, greetings. Welcome to the Sea Smoke Send the Space. We should be joined by Chris. Oh, here we go. Good evening,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Good evening.
How are you, sir?
Doing all right.
Evening,
All right,
evening.
Yes, sirs.
Yes, sir. I could give you a
Yes.
solid 20, 25 minutes before I have to take off.
Took off. All right. Yes. So greetings, viewers, once and also welcome again to another session of Sea Smoke Setting the PS podcast. So here with my co-host, Mr. Gregory Myers, and myself, Christopher Broster. So today we're supposed to have Miss Patricia Ramirez, the founder of the Splash Elite, as our host. But unfortunately, we don't see she log in as yet. But hopefully, we might get her soon.
We're having some technical difficulties. Wait.
Right?
Correct.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hear you, Christopher.
Okay. Yeah, so our guest was supposed to be Miss Patricia Ramirez, the founder of Splash Elite Belize. So hopefully she might join in throughout but best as possible. Unfortunately, our main hosts or main others couldn't have joined as well, but we hope that whatever that they're going through, we hope that is best. But while it's just me and you, Myers, for the little while. So from the last talk, we were talking about nutrition, and as athletes, it's important to have a settled schedule when it comes to nutrition. We just want to continue from what we may left off from discussion about nutrition, and as well, because one of the concerns I get to see, even with myself, is that we notice that most athletes, especially those 16 about to at least 18, so don't really have a job compared to some seniors that might have like a job that they're trying to work. No, it's hard for some athletes these days to try to have what we could say proper balance of nutrition or vitamins that helps them to keep sustain the body to perform. So how as a coach that you address something like these, and how to even approach in helping athletes that do need some of these nutritions and vitamins?
Well, I could tell you that the biggest thing is stay away from fried food, right? Fried chicken is not your friend.
Yeah.
um, but for the most part, uh, rice and beans, potato salad, stewed chicken, the staples of our diet are wonderful. Is a very good diet for an athlete. You hear about pasta loading and things like that. They're good, but they serve a specific purpose um, occasionally. But having eating lots of fruits and vegetables, your starches, your proteins, the things that are typically in our diet to begin with, is good. Anything called fast food is not good food, right? So we always want to be mindful of that. Um, and I could give a good example. Uh, as far as nutrition and vitamins, some athletes need a vitamin supplement. The only real way to by fact figure out what kind of supplements you need is through blood testing, right? If you go to the doctor and you get a blood test and it tells you what deficiencies that you have. Typically, young ladies have would have iron deficiencies, what you find a lot of times. And up here in the states where it's a little cooler in the northern states, we typically find a vitamin D deficiency in our athletes. But in Belize, you will not have a vitamin D deficiency because you're in a tropical climate where a lot of sunlight, right? Um, so these are some of the things that you would do. For instance, Dimitri doesn't take a single vitamin; he just eats properly and regularly unto time. Whereas Daniel has to take a vitamin B supplement because he's deficient, right? He's potassium deficient, which is hereditary. So every person is different. Every situation is different. You just have to kind of monitor it, and the only true way to monitor it, especially if we don't have the necessary wisdom in the sport per se over a long time, is to go get a blood test.
All right, yeah. But then the thing is that blood tests, and then the thing is that you got, because it happens that you got some of the athletes that are like within the villages that may not have like the opportunity chance to access maybe those healthcare, or they have to travel far just to get that blood test just to see where they are at in order to know what they can take in order for them to supplement. Have any comments relating to those that are unfortunate?
Yeah, it's so to be honest with you. So even again, I could use Dimitri as a bellwether, right? Dimitri has never, not once, ever had a blood test. There's no need for it. The only time I would say that you would need to take that route to get something like that is if you notice that you can't recover from a workout, right? Or if you have a situation where um, that the athlete, you could see that they're getting very pale and they don't have enough iron in their system, things that if you do a little bit of research you could find those informations. um, but really and truly, eating staying away from fast foods, eating t- traditional meals and dinners, fruits and vegetables, is the way to go. Just eat regular and normal. it really takes a turn when we start transitioning to an elite level of training, which comes over time. And there are very few people, not even uh, some of the athletes I train are at that level of necessity in nutrition to this point. But the key, again, can't stress enough, a proper diet and stay away from sugar. Sugar is your enemy when you're an athlete. Enemy. Biggest enemy is sugar. You don't want no processed sugar in your body. You get your sugars from your fruits and your vegetables, like your starches
Absolutely.
that go through the process to turn into glycogen for your body. You do not eat processed sugar as an athlete. No soda, no juice, no none of that.
But you see, the thing is here in Belize City, like you mentioned, we stay away from the fatty foods and the processed sugar. But here in Belize, we don't, or some of us already don't used to grow up with the norm of having these things because these things are what we consider cheaper here in Belize. And so, and then the thing is that sometimes for athletes, it's like they were willing to, but then the thing is like it will take a long while, especially if it's an athlete that has been already grew up with that norm of consuming these things. But then there are also some scenarios that even like how would you then go for in adjusting or alternative these you know things like processed sugars and so forth to somebody that has already been growing up to, like what would be some adjustments?
Well, it's not atypical or not abnormal for that to happen, right? Because even here, when I start coaching a new athlete, 99% of them don't have at the same deficit of typical person in Belize. The typical diet here in America for most persons is full of sugar, right? They drink the soda, they drink the juice, they eat sugar cereal, right? Sweet milk, all of those things that are not good. But if once you are educated and you have taken ownership over your own success and or possible success, that's when the change happens. It has to start with you first. You have to decide that this is what I want to do, and it's a process because cutting out sugar, sugar is addictive. It's a very addictive drug. Drinking more water to process out the sugars out of your body, that process takes time, right? So your body starts learning to operate in the natural form, right? Sugar ingestion of processed sugar is not natural, but over time your body gets used to it. So it's not atypical or abnormal. It's something every athlete, once they become an athlete, has to go through. To include Belizeans, to include Americans, to include every athlete, you have to learn to give up the sugar.
Yeah, very true and well said there. Because even me myself, sometimes it's like it's very hard some days to stay away from things like those. But then as an athlete, because there'll be some instances like, all right, like if I know that, because normally I know like before races, normally we will try to like me for myself, like before races, I try to have that way of try to eat like proper athletes for those things. But then the biggest challenge I remember going through was then the continuation from it, because then after that, like after a race, people just go back into consuming these other things until time then to go back. So definitely this do start with us as athletes. Yep. So
To that point, it can't. That mindset or a race to come up make us eat right. That's the wrong. That's not a proper, right, because you're in your training. You go and train hard. Then it's time to recover. That's where you get better. That's where the nutrition comes in, and that's all year, not just before race time. Because if you go and train hard and you don't fuel your body back properly and rest properly, you're not going to make any progress in your training and in your competitions, right? So start thinking that this is every day that I have to eat properly, eat to time, right? Those are sacrifices that must be made for your success. And only you can affect that, right? And say, you know what? I'm going to make this our this is my priority. I want to be a successful student athlete. Part of this is that I have to eat right and I have to get enough rest, which means you have to, sometimes if you're going to be a good student, your time outside of practice is done studying. So if you have to go to practice, go to school, and you have to study, that's like a full-time job. You don't got time for socialization. You don't got time to go hang out at make a go hang out at the park and this and that. No, because you have to go home and go study. And not do it in a timely manner so that you can get enough rest for the next day. So it's a holistic approach if you really want to be successful, and not just in track and field, but in life in general, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, hearing you.
Okay.
Yep. So we see what comment here from Miss Liash says that discipline in eating and training is the key to becoming a consistent athlete, which is very true. You know, the discipline is always that word that every athlete must have in order to be able to be able to achieve a goal. So all
Well,
right. So
you know
the
what?
next.
It's not just discipline,
Mhm.
It's discipline with consistency. Because we could be disciplined for 2 days,
Yeah.
We could go, we say, all right, the next 2 days we not do nothing. We are staying and we are asleep. It's not just a discipline, it comes hand in hand with consistency. Because you need to be consistent with this because your body evolves over time based on the things that you do. So discipline in eating, discipline in sleep, discipline in training, discipline in every aspect of your life is what's required. And believe it or not, those disciplines will end up overlapping each other, making you a better person in general, right? Your mood changes because you have things in order. You're not rushing to get things done. It's across the board. You become a different person, and it comes with discipline through consistency in your daily habits.
Yeah. Very well said. Very well said. Said.
So
You know.
I have a question for you. So uh, in your time as an athlete in Belize, and with your experiences, what would you say is the most impactful experience that you have had to lead you to want to be a track and field athlete?
So I remember when I first started track, because I remember like it was because at the same time when I first started University of Belize in 2019, I remember I have the passion for track. I remember the dean of students told me, yeah, there's that we do track, and and the coach at the time was Alvin Ted at the time, who did track for us at the University of Belize today. I remember get hook up with him, and then he explains everything that they do, gives tell me the rundown of everything. I will always going to go out to train in the evenings after school, because normally it's every evening time they go train. And then I remember as even progress onwards, that's when coach starts to identify. That's where coach also, because again, as part of a coach, especially to me as an athlete, is about getting to know me, getting to know, all right, how, like, all right, apart from being able to attend training on a constant basis, all right, what are some of the, like, do you have like proper nutrition? Do you have the, especially with running shoes, like, all right, what is your size? Because especially like I remember my first run in Mexico for Copa Revelacion in 2019 October, I remember. And I remember it was a rough process for my experience because of my passport at the time, but managed to get through at the last minute. But you know, but one thing I admire with Coach Alvin Tillett now is that he's someone that is very dedicated and he's very open to willing to help at least in any basic needs. But then sometimes, as some of us at least, it's hard to us to even open up to our coaches to certain things because probably we might, like there's a little fear in us that, oh, if we open up to certain things, maybe, we might feel bad. But at the end of the day, what coach job is to try to be neutral and to be able to work with the athletes. And so, as I remember, that was like a whole experience to me growing up. And even though that, training by myself is like I have to remember a lot that I've learned from when I was coaching. And even though the new coach I'm having right now that I speak online from Cuba, Felix, is about be able to still have that communication, that consistency, and that that commitment. That was Ooh, we see he's out. All right, I think we just lost Myers. So I think we just lost Myers, but yeah. But I think one of but to all the viewers listening though, I think one key aspect that I think as even athletes in different sports, is about be able to have that communication with that coach.
Yeah. And that's the coach athlete relationship is very important. Um, I could say that one of the things that working with Alvin over the years is that, and it's a difficult thing, is to establish uh, a rapport with athletes that they can begin to start to trust the process, right? Because with track and field, especially in any of the disciplines in track and field and athletics, everything takes time. There's nothing that happens overnight, and athletes have to learn to trust their coaches as well, right? So, and that is how does an athlete develop trust for a coach? One, mutual respect must be had. Two, that development over time, because respect has to be earned. And especially when some athletes like yourself, you said you started when you went to UB, you're a mature young man at that point. So it's not like a 10 or an 11-year-old young person that has to that is there just to listen, right? You've developed your own thought process as a young person, and to and starting to build that rapport. Now, as far as the training and coaching and stuff is going, um, I would say one of the things I would implore as a senior athlete, and my hope is that eventually you become a mentor and or continue to mentor young people, is to educate yourself in the same things that Alvin did, because you're gonna, as you were coached by Alvin, you're not probably not going to coach the way he coached, right? And I could give you an example for myself. The way I was coached in high school and college is not the way I coach now. Science has changed, information is exchanged, right? And over time, I've developed my own philosophies in training, which has led me to great success as a coach. But again, while I had great success as an athlete, I didn't. I took a lot of the wisdoms that I had learned and experiences, and I developed my own philosophies based on the science, the knowledge that I had picked up from collaboration with my colleagues that are in different universities and our schools. And I came up with my own way. And I would implore you to do the same as you're gaining these experiences. Look at what you can take, good, bad, and indifferent, and make your own path.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so there was two questions that was mentioned online. So the first question was asking, was are university coaches available outside the season?
So with that comes so what typically everywhere else, if if you're at a university, those coaches have a plan for you. Now, in the grand scheme of things, my job as a coach is to prepare you, the athlete, to be autonomous, to work on your own. So over the summer, towards a specific event, i.e., world championships, regional champ, so on and so forth. Even then, like I give, for instance, Hawass is at American International College. School is out. His coach, he's not. He redshirted, so it means he didn't compete the season. He just trained. He's here with me now. If he wasn't with me, he has his workout plan that he is supposed to execute over the summer and be prepared to come back on his own. So even on the highest of university levels, there are rules that prohibit interaction between that coach and that athlete over the summer periods, right? Unless the athlete is continuing on. And then even at that point, when it becomes a postgraduate, there are fees involved, right? On an, in terms of Belize, we are trying to develop and recruit coaches to come in so that in our developmental stage of the country as a nation, that we have coaches available. And also, one thing is everybody to do. They want to have a club, and I'm going to lose them again.
Myers, I think you're out. Yeah, yeah, the internet is with him. Yeah. All right. So while Myers tries to log back in again, so I'm going ahead and try to tackle the next question. When it comes to, all right, so when it comes to me and my training, it's like right now is very complex right now as to speak, because normally like, because then right now when Myers jump back in, hopefully I want to question him when it comes to like off season and on season. Because normally, like, especially going to school on this track season, normally I try to train at least 4 or 5 times for the week. But normally coaches will ask you to train for 6. So so you're back on Myers?
Yeah, yeah. Just I'm traveling, driving home. My wife is driving, and we went through a couple of dead spots. So,
Okay.
and my apologies.
It's all right. All right. So one of my questions I want to point out, because all right, because what happened is that I know, like you mentioned, that when it comes to outside seasons, which I would say the off seasons, that is the time that athletes train on their own. But even though athletes will train on their own, the coach will give like a schedule for them to train within the off season. So when it come back on season, then the coach then will do like maybe like an evaluation to ensure that athletes manage to reach the expectation of the training that they were given to them outside season. So on season, when it comes to whatever training leading to competition that they expect to strive to excel. So is that correct, or?
Well, yes, that's for the most part correct. Um, One of the things that we need to start doing in Belize is learning how to train in cycles, right? And whether you're a sprinter, jumper, distance runner, everything has a base or a fitness phase. Then you go into a pre-competition phase, and then you go into a competition phase, and then you reset and do it over again. And you made mention to a like you would get some workouts to do on your own, and you come back and you get they want to see where your fitness is. Well, I do the same thing. So all my athletes, once we mark a date, okay, the season is over, everybody's going to take 7 to 10 days off. Okay, females 7, males 10. Okay, um, and with that being said, after that, then we start on a day on, day off. So we slowly, gradually get back into it. At week 8, we do a test. But the test is not so much to see if you did your work. The test is to see where you're at in training, right? Because everybody will be at a different place. So with the training, if we say so for me, for my distance runners, we will do a test. We'll run 1 mile on the training surface that we train every day, which is grass at a park. And based on that 1 mile, that's where we set our percentages of our training paces for the year. And then we have a goal of training from 70% of our fitness at that point to by the end of the 7 month or 8 month cycle, we want to be training at 120% of that original pace. So, for instance, last year, Dimitri and Daniel, their 100% training pace was a 440 mile, which is for 400 meters, 70 seconds. So we started our base pace at 70% of that, which is 98 seconds per 400 or a 640 something mile. That was their training pace. And every 2 weeks, we increased that percentage by 2% or 3%, depending on how they looked. And now they're training at 120% of that pace. So it makes you gradually get faster and faster. So this year, again, in August, when we go do our test, I expect them to be able to run a 435 or 432 mile on the grass, which for 1500 meters is about 410, 412. And then now that becomes their base, and hopefully by the end of next year, they're training and running at an exceptionally higher level, right? So, but if you just go to practice with kind of no plan, and you just go there and you're doing the same workouts over and over again with no progression written in strategically, then you're going to be, it's called what they call dead training. And I see a lot, and I'd like to help change so training becomes more progressive, one, and two, it actually leads to actual progress, right? Because if you're running 210 now, my goal is to get you to run 208 in 2 months, and then slightly faster, slightly faster, slightly faster.
Yeah, because obviously that one of the biggest challenges, even as I believe, is because that by the moment we're in off season, that's because we like even me myself. I remember sometimes like it's like we take like we like the definition of vacation to us is like, oh, we will also go until we hear something comes back up. But we do have a few athletes here in Belize that still does run. Like for example, right now we have the end of the world half marathon and full marathon that's coming up in December. Normally for things like those, it's 6 months training leading towards it. And so you've got some athletes that will go out there, try to ensure that they try to train the 6 months. But then you also mentioned dead training, which is that you train but you're not progressing. And even myself, sometimes there was a time recalling did what did work out because like I think it was a time when my whole body was just literally died. Like it's just like it was low. I think it was low. I don't know. I think it was low. And I don't know what is it like when it comes to like I don't know if it's dopamine or metabolism, but that part of the body that keeps that energetic. But yeah, you know, it's something that I think definitely needs to adjust. But it's very great that you do point it out, and then it's just to see ways of how to carry out something like that. All right. So the mindset how also be introduced to parents or guardians in major assemblies. Yeah, good point there, Miss
Sorry,
Castanedas.
I
Yeah.
apologize. I was just I didn't realize my mic was muted. There
Yeah.
was a question just that was just posed, essentially saying that one of the biggest hurdles and to understand about believes is that getting the parents to buy in, right? That mindset has to be introduced to the parents. And I agree 100% because it needs to be, you cannot expect a 12, 13, 14-year-old young person to influence their parents' uh, directives or choice of parenting or whichever, or their main parenting styles. Whereas, so in order to do that, in my opinion, success breeds a following. So what I want to do, what I think is the best way forward is that I hope to bring some high quality coaches to coach at a high school and we get some success, right? Because let's say, like Dimitri, he went out there or Christopher Brasa goes out there and he does wonderful. You're going to get somebody who's going to say, I want to be just like Brasa, right? We need more of that. The more success we have, the more success we can affect, the more people are going to start buying in. And then you're going to get parents say, why, I want my son or my daughter to get that opportunity. And then that's when they open the door for you to have that conversation with them, right? Will it always work? No. And even here, I could tell you that I have athletes that are, when I say phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. But as good as they are, if their parents don't buy into the program, they're not going anywhere. I have an athlete right now that's in that situation. He is by far probably the most talented young man I've ever coached, but his parents don't buy in. So when I walk away from when I move, because I'm in the process of moving, a kid to where he's getting recruited to every university in America. He's probably going to lose his scholarships because the parent hasn't bought in, right? So it, it's a very it's a very rewarding thing to be a coach and a mentor, but it's also sometimes can be very tormenting because just like the question asked, having the parents to buy in is not necessarily the easiest thing.
Yeah. And also there's also scenarios as well that athletes growing up in like what we could say poor ecological, areas or the environment that they're in sometimes, it's also challenging as well because you could have a well performed athlete living in conditions that even sometimes like I think maybe I don't know if you have ever experienced it that brings to eye like man, it's rough, but end of the day, his passion just there, but the environment that he's in just is just something that is one of the biggest thing. I think it's a topic that also is also something that hasn't really much said a lot because you got some families that do support us and you got some that don't. But then also you have to look at like maybe the environmental, like maybe more like some families supports them in poor areas and or maybe families that are in maybe like a well stable that doesn't see it like that. So I don't know if you have experience or share any lights on that.
Yeah, and I do. My wife would testify to this. We have kids, and I coach kids. Some of the you know even some of the kids that aren't the most talented kids, but they love the sport, and they come out, but they come from nothing. And sometimes people um, take for granted, but that we're here in the states, and everybody is. of resource, right? Um, but that's not always the case. We have fostered many children to give them an opportunity to do something that betters their life. So it's here, and it's in Belize, and it's in Jamaica, and it's in every corner of the world. You have people with resources and people without. The key to it is the same mentorship thing that I was alluding to before. When we find those young persons, we do what we can to pay it forward. Because if maybe they need a $2 to get a chocolate milk and a bun for go home, something small like that could go a long way in helping that person become at least have the basic nutrition after a practice. A little carbohydrate and a chocolate milk. That's really all you need after a practice, right? Because they may be going home to no dinner, right? And this happens all the time. But that's why we need more coaches, more mentors, to be involved in the sport and in all sports and in all walks of life as adults, because some kids are just not of resource. So I come across it all the time. I have 5, 6, 7 kids, whatever. And at the height of the my team that I had here, since I had to shut it down because I'm moving, but we had 160 kids, and about 45 of them were senior athletes or professional athletes. But out of the kids that we had, at least 25 of the kids were on what we would call a scholarship, where they weren't paying any fees. And half of those, after practice, whenever we had practice, would come to my house and we would feed them because they were going home to no food. So it's in all areas of the world, all walks of life, you find the same situation.
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. But then that's why one thing, like as a coach, is about identify these issues at the same time. I know for you, it takes a lot of sacrifice to be able to assist those kids that that weren't able to have those nutritions and things for them. And that's why it's also key that even us athletes as well, who are also growing up in seniors, to be able to do the same as well, to be that figure for those upcoming athletes, especially those children, that don't have it,
Well,
because we were once upon a time the same, that we don't have these same necessities too. So, but
I can
yeah.
tell you from my personal experience that somebody did it for me. And not that my parents didn't have the resource, but everybody has a different circumstance. And that's why it's important to have mentors. When I was a teenager, my parents were going through a separation. It was a very hard time in my life. My coach went was that person, that intermediary that helped me separate from the drama that was going on at home. And that happens in a lot, again, in Belize, in America, it doesn't matter where it happens. But when we have mentors that can help guide and stabilize our young kids, and that is why it is critical that we develop mentorship. And it's one of the things that in our executive within the association, that a mentorship committee has been established. It's not fully operational yet, but we have established it because we really need to get like young men like you and young women that have the right mindset to start mentoring and guiding young people uh, in in a way where, if I could put it in a metaphor, when a ship is on the seas, right? When the seas get rough, the ship is rocking back and forth, right? We want to stabilize that ship. We want it be even keeled, and that's the job of a mentor, to teach to help a young person or persons be even keeled so they can weather the storm, so they can continue on with their with and hopefully be successful in their life and pay it forward again. Because when I do it, if I do it to one person did it to me, and now I've done it for hundreds. Now those hundreds, maybe 5 or 10 will do it, and they will do it to their hundreds. So that's now we're getting to thousands, and the ripples become infinite. But it's something that needs to continue to happen.
Yeah, I believe that is the true thing as well. That's all. The thing is, thank God you mentioned that, the association managed to work on a mentorship, because I know in Belize City, we don't really have much of those mentors. And there are athletes like us, it's hard, to have those access to mentors, especially if we're going through things, mentally or physically challenged, and we don't have that mentor to encourage us as athletes to try to push forward and to be able to be on the path. That is something. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, this time next week's show, we could talk about it. Maybe we could talk about it offline. But next week's show, I'm going to announce a workshop. We're not ready to announce all the different aspects of it yet, but we're bringing in some very world-renowned coaches and senior individuals within athletics to help guide us in a workshop to put us on the right path, right? And not so much put us on the right path, but give us some ideas and incentives of what is necessary for us to attain a greater level of competition internationally, so that we can and how to nurture and seed and in our grassroots, the young people, to in a way that will be fruitful moving forward consistently, right? So, but that would be for next week. I know we're running short on time now, but for next week, I just put a little preview out there. We're going to be able to. I will be in a position to be able to announce officially some of the things that we're doing. I can tell you on the 20th to the 22nd of June, I'll be in LA at the Belize Diaspora uh, event that's being put on, and that's one of the things I'll be doing, trying to help bridge that gap so we could work on getting people more involved from the diaspora with Belize, and more people from within Belize involved with the diaspora, to hopefully create more opportunities for our young people in Belize.
Yeah, that song's something great that we could talk about next week. It's very great that you put it out there, which is very interesting as well. That way that it gets, people familiarized with these things, at the same time look forward to, the best that can help move, athletes and also the country forward. But thanks for putting out there. There. Yeah. I think we still got 10 minutes on the line. So
Absolutely. Well, and listen,
let's
I tell you what, the best, in my opinion, the best way forward is through communication, right? And establishing these chains, like how we're establishing this communication, we're building relationships, right? Uh, these relationship will eventually lead to a, a rapport that can only broaden our reach in being able to help others, right? And that has to be the key to everything, because we can, like Miss Cassandra just said. Cassandra, excuse me if I mispronounced your name. I apologize. We do have skilled athletes, and I tell this all the time. I am the least talented out of all of my family, the least talented, but yet I was able to go very far with my physical uh, and mental talents, right? My intellectual ability. So the talent is there. Marion Jones was not a fluke. There are many, many, many Belizean athletes that I know of here that competed in America that never got recognized in Belize. So, and they had all their cousins are still right there in Belize. We are all one. Belize is very small. We all are with a family, one way, shape, or form. If you look too far, too close, you're a cousin. So it's in our DNA. It is in our blood.
Very true.
We just have to work on helping to prop each other up in order to be successful, right? And try to keep that even keel with consistency and discipline.
Yeah, very true. Well said there. Yeah, so I'm seeing that even though we're at the time, and so unfortunately, I see that our host could
I
not
can't hear you.
be
You're muted.
uh, muted. Yeah, sorry. So unfortunately, I believe that our
I
host
can't
was
hear you.
on. What is this? All right, can you hear me now? Am I
I
still
hear you.
muted?
I hear you.
All
I think
right.
that's from Greg and Greg's not hearing you, but I hear you.
Okay, yeah, I didn't hear you. I'm not hearing.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what happened was that unfortunately our guest was unable
I'm
to
gonna
have attend.
I'm gonna come off and come back on real quick.
Okay. All right. Yes. So unfortunately, our guest, Miss Patricia Ramirez, was unable to have attend to have been part of this discussion. So hopefully, we might have her again another time. So sorry for the whole inconvenience. I was hoping that she'll attend, but she just messaged and she explains that she was in a meeting. So we will hopefully get her to come on and to be able to join us. Yeah. So yep. So fortunately, our host is not able to attend to have been part of the discussion, but hopefully we might get her to be a part somewhere down the road. So just want to send out the apologies.
Yeah. Yeah, my apologies. I'm not sure what happened with our connection here. It just it had me in and out.
Yeah. And the thing is right now is that I think right now in a couple minutes, Belmopan surround is supposed to be going through some blackouts. So it was been announced later on today. So yeah. So I guess with all that being said, I guess we will have to come to a conclude here for tonight. But thanks again, Mr. Myers, for always being on and for the discussions. And so we will continue again next week with the announcement of the summit
Yep.
on your
The
end.
summit
So
the summit is announced. I'm not the organizer of the summit. That's
mhm,
announced. I'm just an invitee.
the
We
invitee. Okay, but you're just
we
gonna
have a
provide
work
us like a little
yes, the workshop that we have planned
workshop
for the
plan. Okay.
15th and the 16th of June. I will be able to give you more details on that next week. But it will be very exciting, very informative, and we're going to encourage as many people to come out as possible, so that we could try bring in more attention to our country, right? and
Yeah.
we will do it. We will do it. I made promises to people that are no longer here, and
Yeah.
I intend on keeping those promises. So, we're going to lift up Belize. We're going to do it.
Definitely. We have to because we all want to move forward. We all want to make Belize City be on top on success, and that's all that has to be with teamwork, consistency, and discipline. So yes.
That's right. That's right.
All right then. I guess with all that being said, thank you very much. So we'll continue again next week. So we're done for tonight.
All right. Well, good night, everybody,
All
and
right.
we'll see you
All right.
next
Good
week.
night. Good. Yes, next week.
All right. Good night.
IMEDs. I'm here to say second, you know we deal with the streets detrimental. I never know. The money we have flowers, we know. Cash in our smoking. IMEDs in the place. They say we got linked up. And then we know. Nothing about them. IMEDs. Sure. I know nothing me get a million spend it off. Double the money, triple then me set it off. Spain town badness and me no come with fuckery craft. Bad Benz land a road new jet just take off. Plus me mother good, me brother them a brave. And me living comfortable now me mansion ras. Keep going dog, we never ever pass. We have to complete the mission, mash up every task. Watch the envious and the jealous dog. Say a prayer chant, psalms feed them dirty heart. Focus on my meds, keep my cash advance. Cut and clear, judge and me heart. Plus me check them clear, me have me cash them lock. Me buy some Gucci prints and some Louboutins. Detrimentally when we stock up on those class. When we stock up on those class. Money we are free tonight. Hustling at the streets tonight. That's how we do it. Money we are free tonight. Hustling at the streets tonight. Yeah, that's how we do it. New Gucci reach tonight. Y'all them looking neat tonight. Yeah, that's how we do it. Money in the streets tonight. Money in the streets tonight. Money we are free tonight. Hustling at the streets tonight. That's how we do it. Money we are free tonight. Hustling at the streets tonight. Yeah, that's how we do it. 24/7 when we roll out. Me I go talk some facts, yes, I will me know about. But not pagans and run them with them cold mouth. Long time me I trod the street, long time me I roll out. Alright then me have to make the music complete. Long time me and Fire Dice we stand at Jaja feet. We have to complete the mission complete. The reggae music have to fulfill, you know it's sweet. Hey money we are pre, and money we are bring. And tell them say we have to get some new kicks and bling. Some new jeans and ting, some fresh strips and ring. And girl them say we look good, relax, clean and think. Cause Smokey we gamble money like cash pot. On the beach me reach me gal I bring the fat strap. You will squander money, yes we have it stock. Fire Dice I buy the NSC, buy all the pack. First rule fraternity, we there at the top. And at the end of the day we make we stop back. Money we are free tonight. Hustling at the streets tonight. That's how we do it. Money we are free tonight. Hustling at the streets tonight. Yeah, that's how we do it. Money we are free tonight. Hustling at the streets tonight. That's how we do it. Money we are free tonight. Hustling at the streets tonight. Yeah, that's how we do it. Money we are free tonight. Hustling at the streets tonight. That's how we do it. Money we are free tonight. Hustling at the streets tonight. That's how we do it. Money we are free tonight. Hustling at the
Money is not the root of all evil. It's love of money. That's the root of all evil. Right as I know, vibes live. Everything plumb and belly. Keep a close eye on the devil. Higher state of consciousness with the revel. Papa Curry, yeah, we tell the people. Pounds and pence, dollars and cents. Most important sense, the common sense. But enough man thinks, they don't know the difference. Fatal flaw, them have to pay the consequence. You have pounds and pence, dollars and cents. Most important sense, the common sense. But enough man thinks, don't know the difference. Fatal flaw, them have to pay the consequence. You say grass greener, but the next side of the fence. For a few dollars more, and it them like that they met them. Robbing them, brother, them sister, them friends, and them parents. Yep. them still content. Fool no nobody dog when I got the bone for the shadow. First to the light, me hope them live it in a sorrow. No make me catch the make the pleading quite a drive barrow. Me have to check with you tomorrow. Pounds and pence, dollars and cents. Most important sense, the common sense. But enough man dense, they don't know the difference. Fatal flaw, them have to pay the consequence. You have pounds and pence, dollars and cents. Most important sense, the common sense. But enough man dense, don't know the difference. Fatal flaw, them have to pay the consequence. $1 million and one way if they make $1 million. Bongo get no need for this stand up on no street corner. Like a jungle, like a vulture. They help Satan fi mash up my culture. Dream say, he in a God them trust. Me and Madrid know for them dollars run first. Lord, I judge them the cost. When for vanity then the loss. Pounds and pence, dollars and cents. Most important sense, the common sense. But enough man dense, they don't know the difference. Fatal flaw, them have to pay the consequence. You have pounds and
they say you never miss your water until your well run dry. And overspilled milk, a big man is not supposed to cry. Well then, butter brim, if you're the woman butter brim, them could have charged her for sin. Butter brim, straight cleaning, in search of fucking. Butter brim, fully they made examine, figure lose such a sweet browning. Butter brim, now it's the dread she call it when she need sexual healing. Anyways, one man lost is another man's gain. If you can't handle the traffic, then stay out the lane. Behind her beautiful smile, she was hiding her pain. You couldn't see the tears due to the falling rain. But with a woman emotions, son, you don't wanna play a game. Then got certain moves I want put you to shame. And then you begging and your balling will all be in vain. When I bet she call the next morning. Remember all of the first time you meet it. You have to do that clutch much more for keep it. Candlelight dinner, wine and chocolate. Don't forget the roses, big man, you stalk it. You should have me walk her down to the pulpit and remove her sexy ass from off for the market. Your friends don't have no woman, but them calling you whip. And like an idiot, you believe it. Butter brim, if you're the woman, butter brim, them gonna charge her for sin. Butter brim, straight cleaning, in search of fucking. Butter brim, fully made examine, figure lose such a sweet specimen. Butter brim, now it's the dread she call it when she need sexual healing. A woman is a gift unto humanity. Treat her with respect and dignity. Heed the words of the great Tyrus Riley. She royal, will treat her like royalty. She works, she cooks, she clean and wash your stinking laundry. All she wanted in return was your loyalty. Could I make her a carnival free karaoke? Her love just come down and she need a remedy. You met her at the peak of her sexuality. Wrong time to leave a big woman lonely. Pretty like an angel, but she well freaky. And now she feeling horny. Income not a dread to fulfill her fantasy. She blows when I whisper sweet nothing softly. She's on a journey. Onto ecstasy. Butter brim, if you're the woman, butter brim, them gonna charge her for sin. Butter brim, straight cleaning, in search of fucking. Butter brim, fully they made examine, figure lose such a sweet browning. Butter brim, now it's the when she needs sexual healing. Fully know when the holy
back in.
my hand. Woman recently inherited acres along. Cassava, cocoa, ganja and yum. Yeah, stripping on the box to make the Cessna on DJ.
Yeah, just back leave it. Yeah, correct. Leave it more. Correct. No, you're visible.
Well, no. I just want the fish stay up there for now. I know where they're going. Good.
Who not on? We on, yes? Who not on?
Are you on?
Yeah, we live.
Okay, well,
Okay.
it's 7 o'clock. Straight up. G-Mike with you from Belize City. Welcome to another edition of our weekly podcast, the liveliest podcast, most informative, most provocative. We bring it to you straight and direct. No favor, no bias, no agenda, no no any kind of how would I say that? That's that in no back thoughts at all. This is straight up, straightforward. We're here every Wednesday evening from 7 Belize time until 9 Belize time, from 6 LA time until 8 Belize time, LA time, from 7, is it 7, 8 New York time until 10 New York time, right? Until we go to the spring, to the fall back time, then you go 1 hour back while we remain at 7 in Belize City. We await our regular guests. We have Lisa chiming in as we speak. Good evening, Lisa.
Good evening, Mr. Mike. How are you?
Wonderful, not bad at all. Hot, very, very hot. In Belize City, we have not had no rain for over, might be 2 months at least. It's coming on to that close.
I thought you guys were expecting a little rain this, today or tomorrow.
Well, if it's to be, it'll be tomorrow. I tell you that. The
Okay.
rainy season begins on June the 1st, as you know, along with the hurricane season. So both those are due to start. Now, today's the 29th. We have how many days in May? 30 days of September, April, June, and November.
Yeah.
So May is 31,
Mhm.
right? So we got 2 more days before the official start of
No, we have tomorrow is the last day because June
today's the
1st is
29th.
Friday. Uh-huh.
Well, then, so we have no.
Oh, you know what? You're right.
Tomorrow is
Yeah,
only Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have
No, it is.
2 days to go. Right. So we're on schedule if it comes in tomorrow or day after, because we know that normally it's either the 15th of May or the 1st of June. If it's early, it'll be the 15th of May. If it's on time, it's 1st of June. If it doesn't rain the 1st of June, look out. You're going to have some drought conditions, because after that
Oh,
it's
wow.
really scorched earth. We
And it's
big
been pretty May gray here for the last month.
May gray as in
As it's gray all day. We get maybe 20 minutes of sun, of real bright sunshine. Yesterday for the holiday, we had maybe a half of a day of sun. And with as soon as the sun sets, we're back down to 60-degree weather.
so it's kind of cool still then.
It's a very cool. Mhm.
What state are you in?
I'm in California.
Oh, well, California is hot in the daytime and cool at night all year round, isn't it? As far as I
Pretty
remember,
much.
I remember going out in short pants and having to bring home in a jacket. So
Right.
yeah, California has some strange weather. I'm telling you. When I went to LA, I believe it was in the mid '80s. When I first got to LA, it did not rain for 3 years. And I could remember the song that guy used to sing, "It never rains in Southern California." And that was, at that time, that was true. 3 years, it did not rain a drop. I'm not lying to you. And after that, I saw that sometimes it's gotten really rainy lately. And I guess the weather is changing, all around. Climate
It
change.
has. Right. It has changed. I would say in the last 10 years, we've been seeing much more rain. Before, I think when I was a teen, I don't remember it raining. I remember one time it rained so hard back in 96, somewhere between 94, and I would say 95, 96. And the rain was so bad. We thought that it was Armageddon, because that's the first time we had really experienced rain. We had never seen rain like that before. But, us not having rain has also caused California to become very drought. We've had a problem with drought.
Yeah, I can see that. In fact, I remember them not allowing you to wet your lawn or they were telling you not to take as many showers every day, and they were really into water conservation. Now, what do you think about climate change? Do you believe it's real?
Change exists, and it does exist for me experiencing it just here in California. And I'll give you an example. Even if I was a little bit skeptical prior, I kind of lead to it into it more so now. Number one, the past few years we've had significant amount of fires that have left California very parched. Number two, last year, for example, I have never experienced having snow in the city, in the local city of 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 LA, and we had snow for literally an entire month, and cold, freezing New York Buffalo
You
weather
you saying for an entire month
for
it
an
snowed
entire month. It
in
snowed, it rained. We had it
wait.
all.
You're talking about the city of Los Angeles.
Mhm. Correct. Correct. I even have pictures from when it was snowing. I went on, walked up maybe 100 feet from my home and looked at all the mountains surrounding us with snow, layers of snow. It was really crazy. And 2 years before that, I have pictures of those same hills being burnt from the scorching heat we were experiencing.
That's I read somewhere where one expert was saying that even now that if we turned back everything and did everything we're supposed to do right now, it would be too late. That there's nothing you could do
Mhm.
now, that climate change has occurred, and it'll only get worse. That the heat every year it'll get consistently hotter, and I think we'll see people really suffering from this. Um, Now
Right.
we don't hear many people dying and many cases of heat stroke, but I believe that you will before long. You will see people coming getting affected by this condition here is not normal, and it's not normal for humans to live under this kind of condition.
Right. I'm having a little connection thing here. 1 second, Mike. 1 second.
Okay, all right. Let me Greg is usually in early. He's not on yet. We're expecting Joe Cowie as normal. And I believe she was telling me that a couple of people were supposed to be on promoting their upcoming shows. I know this. CY, you there?
Yeah, me. Miss Arlette was supposed to come out. She have a funeral. I want to extend our condolences from the Sea Smoke so to her and the family. You know what I mean? I think her aunt passed away. And Amaru, I'm waiting for Amaru. And Louis Gill. Louis Gill seems to be having a little problems down south where he at. So we waiting on him as well.
Okay.
But so far so good. Gregory and Joe will be probably in a little while.
Wonderful. All right.
Okay.
Well, listen. We'll let's see. Lisa works her issues out. You know, the bombs are still dropping on Palestine, on Rafah, and it's a sad situation when the World Court, the criminal court, has issued indictments, has told them to stop. And they have said to the World Court, kiss my posterior. I don't know how in this day and age in 2020 they can be doing that. I don't even see how this can be happening, what is happening in Palestine in this day and age with the whole world watching. We know that this plot was hatched way back in 1917 when Balfour an Englishman wrote to a Russian Jew named Rothschild. From the Rothschild family, you know they own most of the money in the world. And he promised them a homeland for the Jews who have been dispersed throughout the world. And I have a theory about that. I believe that because they handle money so good, God made them go into every land to handle everybody's finances. But they don't want that. They say, you know what, we want a spot where all of us could gather. And I believe there is some sort of plan on the way that they want to be the only ones here on this planet. And it's a crazy situation. It might sound unreasonable. It might sound unreal indeed, but the way things are going, don't put anything past these people. I believe they want all of the Middle East. I believe they want Jordan and Egypt and Iran, which is why they're trying to instigate a fight between the U.S. and Iran. So far, the U.S. have stayed, well, at least from sending troops and direct conflict. But it's not gonna be too long if they allow Netanyahu to keep having his way, and they're really not doing anything to curtail the madness of this fellow. So we're gonna have to keep our eyes on that situation. I think the world is gonna have to keep speaking out. Stop the genocide. Free Palestine. These people have gone into that land, and I could understand them wanting a place to live. Okay, so you're there now. You've built that city, but you cannot take the whole place, man. You can't just ethnic cleanse these people. You cannot just get rid of all the people who were there initially. They are the indigenous people, so you cannot just be allowed to wipe them out just because you want the land. They've always had their eye on Gaza. You know, Gaza is seafront property. It's right along the Mediterranean. They always love that. I was seeing turbulent weather has wiped out the port, the little landing platform that they had built. The U.S. built that to accommodate the entrance of relief into Gaza. And I'm thinking, why go through all that expense and difficulty? Why not just open the borders where the trucks are waiting to come in? Those borders are well and capable of handling the influx of aid, which is necessary. And these people have been in an outdoor prison for 70 years. You know that aid has always been going in because they need to feed them and give them something to eat. It's just like a prison. It is nothing short of a prison. And they keep them in there. They have them locked up. The kids are growing up with no opportunity to become anything. Half of the population is under 18 years of age. This situation, and you know, October the 7th happened, and everybody condemns it. It was whenever you see innocent lives being lost. But how angry can you be? And they come in this Amalek, this whole concept that they need to destroy man, woman, picnic, dog, cat, everything, and that is what they're aiming to do. And I think there are two misnomers. I think number one, the main misnomer. Good evening. The main misnomer is that they're calling it a war. A war is between two fighting factions. I have yet to see the uniform of the Palestinian army. Do they have one? We know that no colonized people, no people that are under subjugation like that are allowed to have any kind of army or even a police force. So they did not have an army. They had pockets of resistance fighters. So a war is between, you would imagine, two armies. This is not a war. It's not even fighting. They drop bombs from afar and then go in and kill everybody that's left standing. Man, woman, and child. I don't see it being allowed to happen. I can't see how it has been allowed this long, much less for much longer. Please, wherever you are, whichever way you can speak out, do not be silent, because they say complacency is complicit. If you are complacent, you're being complicit. If you're not condemning this, then you're saying basically, okay, it's all right, as long as you don't do it to me, I'm all right. But how do you know that you're not next? How do you know what's going to happen with this? And war is hell, people. War has always been hell. It's a foolish, dumb exercise. And many times when you see countries fighting, it is the same as when you see these boys on the street fighting. And many times it is for very trivial matters. You would think there's something big and really complicated that they're fighting over. Many times it is just somebody calls somebody a name, somebody say, before you know it, somebody's dead. Somebody don't get shot. So the countries are pretty much the same thing. That just the people in charge, the higher ups, are not able to communicate and be diplomatic. And instead of that, taking that harsh, that state of nature kind of approach where the might is right, and we will do what we need to do to accomplish our aims. Damn be the consequences. It is not a very good thing, and not a good way to be. Here in Belize, I was watching a story. Well, it was on the news this morning that the staff at the DPP's office, this is the Director of Public Prosecutions, they're threatening industrial action. They're thinking about going on a strike, go slow, don't do anything. The reason is that the government has appointed 2 new people to that office, one an assistant director and one a deputy assistant director. Or the other way around, deputy assistant, assistant deputy, but there are 2 posts that have been created. Now, the people that are in there are upset, not because the post was created, but because they weren't given first dibs at it. Now, I'm saying that is not the problem I have with that. The problem I have is that the posts were created to begin with no explanation as to why. Why do you need these posts? How will the creation of these posts help to make the DPP office more efficient, get us convictions? And I think the conviction rate in Belize is something like 3%, in particular for murders. We need more production, but you cannot do it by spending money and creating plush places. You know, these posts will carry vehicles. They're high up position posts. Now the members of the department are upset because they didn't give them an opportunity to fill the posts. I don't know how efficient they are. Apparently, the fact that they have to bring in more people is not saying much about the confidence they have in them. I don't know if there's much confidence in the DPP herself, but as we all know, she has security of tenure. In other words, cannot be fired. When you get hired for a job like that, you could quit, but they cannot fire you. And I don't see that make much sense at all. I'm thinking these people must be able to find a way out of such a contract. Remember how long they had a fight, and in fact, they still have not gotten anywhere with it, with that waste control matter, where they signed a contract but they can't get out of it. Government change, one in and one out. You could change the whole structure of government, but you cannot go back and renegotiate a contract. I'm not sure I fully understand that at all. And I guess you have to be a lawyer to be able to communicate with these people at all. And they're the ones who make the laws. They're the ones who do all the adjustments and the tweaking and whatnot, and we just abide. That is our that is privilege we get. Just comply, go along. It's not far at all, if you ask me, from slavery, where they tell you what to do and you do it, right? So I guess Lisa is having more trouble getting in. A couple of guests that were supposed to be on this evening, folks, bear with us. I am
Dicha,
going.
Dicha will be on in another 20-25 minutes. She's en route, so
Okay,
we're expecting her to come on. Correct.
Lisa was in.
Yeah, Lisa having issues a little
Yeah.
bit. She said she should be back in a little while too.
Must be snowing in LA. But it's snowing in LA, and this climate change thing, I think we have to look at it seriously. I don't know. Obviously, again, I don't know what we can do to reverse it. It is said that you probably cannot reverse it. We have to know how to adapt to it, though, because human beings are good at that. We can adapt.
But in a previous show, you had mentioned that the world has been going through climate change since the beginning of time.
But that is true also. But the world has always been going. But I don't know
to this extent.
That up to today. When I feel a heat out there today, today rough, Rasta. Today will convince a denier that climate change is real.
But same way Lisa was convinced when she saw the snow. So I guess
yes, you know what I'm saying?
Like that.
So no, but good point. You make a good point, because I have been saying that for a long time, that I was not paying it enough attention. However, like I said though, having said that, it is also said that if this is real, then there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, because I mean, it's caused by fossil fuel.
Yes, and we're not going to stop using that.
No, exactly.
The damage is done, and the greedy ones will not give up their money, because that is what it will take. They will have to cut some profits. Look how long it took for them to allow. Now we're getting the hybrids and the electric cars and whatnot, and in fact that's not even fully on. Then they're not allowing the use of the now we're getting solar. Some solar is coming in, but they have been fighting these things for a long time because it's cutting into the profit of those who make the real money.
Correct.
And fuel in particular. Fossil fuel is where the money is.
That's the bottom line, the money.
And it's the cause of a lot of wars that happen anyway. In fact, this whole Middle East, the reason Israel was established there is to secure the oil of that region. So they're not going to give up that oil, and they're not going to give up use of the oil, because if you don't buy the oil, they don't make the money. So a rough situation where, again, we can't do nothing about it, so we'll have to find a way to adapt. You have to find a better way to put energy to your air condition unit, because you're going to need it. I tell you what, it's the first time this year I've used my AC in my vehicle. There's Joe.
He sounds like Joe AC the buck there.
Yeah, Joe, he looks pretty cool right there. Nah, I think I say I'm finding the move.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, what's up?
Well, my brother was a bit late. I was with my grandson's birthday, so I go back.
Well, that's understandable. I'm surprised you make it already, and in good shape. You're still look to tipsy yet. So yeah. But when he goes sleep, then everybody else pull out the bottle, right? And the real celebration start. Yeah, man. How things? We're going to talk about climate change, boy, and the heat and whatnot. I don't know how we handle it. You got any ideas?
Well, quite frankly, I have accepted that there is, in fact, climate change scientifically. My major concern is that I don't too confident that we will be able to. Certainly, we will not be able to reverse it.
Right.
But my major concern is that the big countries that are, in fact, creating most of the damage are the ones that seem not to be suffering the most. So the irony of it is that the smaller countries, especially those in the Pacifics and like in the coastlines in Central and Latin America, like here in Belize.
Well, when you say they're not suffering the most, though, Joe, because the climate is getting the entire planet is getting warmer. Everybody's getting hotter.
It is.
So they will be punishing as well as the rest of us. But you think they have enough money to alleviate the situation to cool
Yeah,
themselves?
because it seems to me that they have a greater potential for resilience now. And we are very dependent on sort of grants for our resilience, as you can sense. So I think that this to me need one global coming together, one international community fighting this issue.
Are we gonna get that?
No, because we seem to be quite divided.
And getting worse.
The countries that had committed to cut back on the fossil fuels, evidently they are benefiting tremendously from the fuels. So what happens is that they are putting that dollar ahead of the climate.
Joe, you know one man that has, well, you were brought up in a religious way, right? Your family are what, Roman Catholic?
Roman Catholic, yeah.
Yeah. What do you say to those who suggest that with what we're seeing, the sign of the times, the wars and rumors of wars, all the other things as seem to be predicted, forecasted in the Bible, that we might be coming to what how else you call it, the end of life as we know it. You any thoughts?
I don't really believe the end is near. Certainly,
but do you one question, do you attribute nuclear war to that sentence or condemnation, or
you mean at the end you mean maybe then somebody drop bomb on one and that's it?
Is that a possibility?
Well, I kind of like Bob when he said that have no fear for atomic energy, because none of them can stop the time. I do believe, though, that there will be a reckoning, a day of reckoning, and I think it's nearer than Joe is suggesting. Just my opinion.
I think this acronym MAD, which is mutually assured destruction, is in fact a deterrent. And to me, it will only be resorted to. And I'm just giving out a hypothetical case.
Say it again. The MAD, which is what?
MAD, which is the mutually assured destruction. This has been the deterrent with the use of nuclear weapons. Because if one country uses it, then it's the end. In other words, they will be destroyed in the process.
Well, why would they develop it to start with? Why would they not try to ban it and get rid of it?
Well, that's what they were trying to do with the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty.
Yeah, but only, again, the bigger countries didn't abide. Do you see America giving up this nuclear weapons?
Very valid point, because that's exactly what is now before us all. The case with them, the case with Israel now and Palestine.
Right.
It is true that the United States did not ratify the treaty for the International Criminal Court.
Mm-hmm.
But if these countries are not prepared to use the international community, which is bound by the rule of law, individual countries will only remain civilized to the extent that they can be governed by the rule of law. And wherever the rule of law is breaking down, obviously you will see civil unrest. Now, at the international level, when they came together to form the international community, it was to be governed by the rule of law. But if a country like the United States, in the case of this recent declaration by the United Nations Court of Justice, when it put the declaration against Putin, seeking a warrant for his arrest, the United States supported it. But when it went against Netanyahu, he went against it. The point I'm making is a similar thing seems to be happening in the case of the climate change. If we can, in fact, come together as a community, we can still save ourselves. But the problem that they are driven by the greed. So the fossil fuel, what is continuing to be used and affecting the atmosphere, is continuing. Remember, they had set a figure. I don't remember what it is. I think this was at the meeting in Paris or somewhere. The world had come together and set a target that they will not allow it to increase by a certain amount of Celsius. I don't know if it's 1.1%, but something like that. And they had agreed that they would come together to make sure they will cut back. But they are not reaching the target.
Yeah,
So
there are experts who have suggested that no matter where, though, that the damage is done. It's gone.
well,
It's gone too far.
the damage has been done, but they still believe that we could probably, they won't be able to reverse it indeed. It don't seem so. But they can slow it down.
Yeah. But what are the odds, Joe? What are the odds of these countries
If they,
giving up
I,
the profits? Kind of all about profit, you know. Whatever.
Mr. Joe, what about the animals too? What about the polar bear, for example?
I am
I
saying,
think that's melting so much. What about that? That's not going. That
if you
erosion will not stop.
if you take guys like Jeffrey Sachs, he's a Nobel Prize winner, who is of the strong belief that the world can eliminate poverty, not just reduce it. Or the same principle which Jeffrey Sachs was promoting is that we can maybe not reverse the climate change, the heat, but we can stop it, slow it down. And if the world come together, we can build what is needed now to protect those areas that have been going underwater. They can build the walls. So the world has the capacity right now to save itself. But it's the greed.
Now
You have a very optimistic point of view, Mr. Joe.
Well, my optimism lies in the hope that humanity might still be able to save itself, in the sense that you see, when you see these things are happening in countries, the developed countries, and I'm using America is the number one in the world. I still believe that it has a hope there. I believe that what is happening in America now, you look at what happened in Texas just recently, that have never been there for over 100 years. What happened in 5 days, it will have taken months. So as these kind of things begin to affect them, sometimes it's when the crisis come to your door, it is then you decide to join the crowd.
Which is then quite often too late.
Sometimes indeed too late, as what happened with the Jews.
And when you were talking about the eliminating poverty in the world, which I believe that is easier than even managing climate change. Because when you think about the billions and billions of dollars that's been spent on these two wars only, that could have eliminated poverty in all of America for sure.
The whole world, that's right.
You know how much chicken $64 billion could buy? I mean, enough chicken will feed people for years. So I think the willpower, the will to do it is where I can see you hoping beyond hope, but I can't realistically see these countries even developing that will to do it. There's an ego problem at play here, hubris at play here.
I agree with you. There is no doubt that the extent to which mankind has gone in terms of the pursuit of materialistic wealth, they have subordinated the humanitarian aspect to capital. Mm-hmm. And that has been that's a bad side of capitalism, the unbridled capitalism, which has hurted the world. No, I sense indeed that some countries have come to realize, and many companies today, have come to accept that stone hard type of capitalism is not good for them. And they have been making changes, and I'm beginning to see the benefit.
You mean like Switzerland? Which country?
No,
Sweden?
I that when they had that meeting about a year ago in Edinburgh, and they had scholars and they had practitioners, and they were looking at the different economic ideologies. And they came to the conclusion that if you look after the workers, and the workers will look after the consumers, then that is how the shareholders benefit.
And you see some changes coming into effect?
Yeah, I did. Some of them did change, and they begin to realize that they have to treat the workers differently. They have to take more interest into making sure the workers, because it's the workers that brings the money, and they begin to reap the greater benefit. So,
isn't that a small step on a very long journey?
It is a small step, but the journey of the 1,000 miles, they said, begin with the first step, no? So when you're looking at America today, and I'm looking at America, which is the most powerful country in the world still. Well, look at how polarized America is right now. I don't know if it is even more now than during the Vietnam War, because it was very divided then. But again, he was able to enjoy that, survive, and now it's very polarized again between the two major political ideologies and the two major political parties. But
Yeah, go ahead.
in the next year, within this year, what happens in America will depend on which direction the world will go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, November will tell that story, no?
That's right.
What though? I don't know that difference is so much in the political spectrum, as in there was a different ideology at play here. Some people see things one way and others see it the other way, and I think it spans the divide. There are people on take for instance in the Republican Party who are against the funding of the war in Palestine, and there are people on the Democratic side also. So there are those who it seems want peace and those who want dominance, as opposed to the Republicans and Democrats, no?
Yeah, but I think that the Republican Party is not what it was. I think that it has moved out in a direction where it seems to be more idolizing Trump. So the Republican Party is not the party of Reagan and them again.
Some comedian was making the point the other day that the Democrats have turned Republicans and the Republicans have turned Democrats. They changed places almost as far as ideology is concerned.
Well, they have always been maybe not diametrically opposed, but somewhat opposed in the ideology. That's why people vote for one over the other, because the Republicans evidently believe in a more free market, less regulations, less taxes for the wealthy. What they call the trickle-down supply economics.
Correct. They figure you get the wealthy more, then
Right.
we create jobs and
That's right.
Then,
That's right. Exactly.
then the poor will get better help.
But it didn't work. But now the Democrats take a different view. So
why do you think that wouldn't work? Why did it not work? What would not make something like that work?
Because they found out that when they were giving the relief to the big corporations, they had expected that the tax relief would have been reinvested and to create more jobs. But what they were doing instead, they were buying racehorses and carpets.
They greed. They really greed.
Yeah, they were showing you that.
Yeah, like somebody give you some money and say, "Oh, share this amongst this crowd, and you're gonna take all the money," and the people don't get nothing.
So the trickle down didn't work, and the 20 years of the deregulation, they begin to feel the consequences of it in the recessions when the bubble burst. I think back in '98 or so. That was a result of the Reagan trickle down economics. So my bottom line is that if we cannot begin to accept, and I call it the gospel imperative for want of a better term, which to me, socialism has its roots within the biblical teaching. When you talk about love one another as I love you, that is in fact socialism. And most of the countries that are the wealthy countries today, and this book, The Great Ascent, the famous economist Heilbronner, when he wrote The Great Ascent, it was in fact about these same developed countries, the United States, France, Germany. Every one of them started on a more socialist approach. And it was only when they became extremely wealthy. The last big country was under the lady name from UK when she and Reagan came together and she began to privatize.
Is that Thatcher?
Thatcher.
Yeah,
so many of them had arisen to wealth based on the mixed economy. So I feel that today, countries that are beginning, like those in the Eastern Europe, Western European countries, the Scandinavian countries, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, these countries are now heading the world in the Human Development Index, simply because that same type of socialistic approach to government has worked for them, and it's working well.
But when did socialism become a bad word? Because
I think it was made a bad word by those who were so pro-capitalist.
Or they conflated with communism.
Yeah, what happened, my judgment is that those who were advocating communism at the time, like Stalin and them, abused it. So what Karl Marx, I think, was preaching, I think was good. But those who begin to adapt it became autocratic and very cruel. So to me, at the end of the day, he gave a bad name to socialism and communism.
I
But
remember an interview that Barack Obama did, and when they were talking about, because they accused him of being somewhat a socialist, no, and he was saying, well, if you look at the social security system, that is socialism,
that's a
because
welfare.
it's basically helping those who don't have, or finding a way to make sure that there's some money trickling down, if you will, to the poorer classes, no?
Exactly, because when man move away from the state of nature and they decided they're going into a state of a society, the first move from the state of nature was more into a monarchical system where kings rule with power. And then from there, they move towards democracy, which we call democracy, no?
Which we call democracy, because it's certainly not democracy. We know that.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes it's just veneer. It's just
But
the point to be made is that when we move into that state, the idea was simple for us to practice that welfare type approach, because that was what the state was for. The state was supposed to carry out a welfare. The state was supposed to be welfare oriented. The private sector was to be private sector driven. So the state today still remains because of the people pay the taxes. The state exists through the people's taxes. And that's welfare. You can walk the street. You can play in a park. You can drive on a highway. You can cross a bridge. And you may not be paying any tax because you just cannot afford to, or you're not working. So your right to these things doesn't come by the basis of you being able to pay for it. And that's welfare. So they are rooted from man move away from the state of nature into a state of society. It was they were accepting that there had to be welfare.
But even nature itself offers welfare, because so much of what exists in nature is free and is given to us freely. We have found a way to tax what nature offers us normally.
Make money off of it, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, then again, there's some who suggest that when it's free, we take it for granted. We don't appreciate it, and
only government people say that. Only government people say
that. I don't know.
I mean,
you see
you have to pay.
Practice.
But why do you have to pay for a fishing license? Yes, there is. I'm just giving a devil's advocate on it, right? Today you have to pay for a fishing license to just go out and catch some fish, right, in the sea, and so or to just put your boat on this sea to go and drive around, you got to pay a fee to do that. And I understand why it happens, but I'm just saying these are things that are free in nature for us.
You understand but don't agree? Is that it?
No. I'm just showing that I understand, because the state have established itself as a revenue to gain revenue, to say they will do a greater good. That means that, for example, if you're stranded out in the ocean, right, because of a storm, or you run out of gas or whatever, you're hoping that the Belize Coast Guard will hear about you through some means and will come out and rescue you.
And they have to finance that. Yeah.
So that needs to be accounted for. So that's how I understand it, and that's why
it's a bit
I
more
agree
than
to
that,
that.
though. It's a bit more than that.
Yeah, no, it's a bit more than that. But I'm just showing one very normal example of how it translates.
You have environmental issues where you can't have everybody can't have on board, and in particular the fishing. Now, I can understand a person should be able to go out there and catch a fish or two to eat, but if you're going out there and catch fish commercially to come in and sell, then I can understand you having to have a license to do it.
And that have always been the case, I believe, even back in.
Yeah, but in most cases, Mr. Gregory, where governments are putting on a fee for service, it's only because the circumstances is that only those who use it must pay. But most of government revenue or taxes is not a fee for service. No, it's simple that who can afford to pay must pay for those who cannot afford to. And that's the welfare part of any state. Every state is like that. If you say that if you put in your constitution, which I hope we were putting in ours in the amendment, and you say we are going to be free education.
Mm-hmm.
It's free at the point of delivery, but it means
Mm-hmm.
that it has to be paid
Somebody
for.
pay for it. Somebody pays for it.
What we are saying in that situation is that that child who benefits from it is not working,
Mm-hmm.
but we want to know that our children can go to school and get an education because it's a part of building the human capital for our country.
Yes.
So when we are paying with taxes collectively into the public purse, that is why it is so important to ensure that the government is held accountable to make sure that it fulfills the constitutional commitment to the people. So now when you're going to say, listen, you see this bridge? We're going to build at this river, we're going to build a bridge here. No, not everybody will cross that bridge. And only those who have vehicles will cross it. So they can say we have a fee for service. So they toll the bridge. And only those who use it pay for it. But you don't pay to go to a public park. You don't pay to drive the roads. And that is part of the welfare. But the state is grounded in welfare. The private sector is in profit.
Okay, you mentioned political reform, which is another hot button issue. And I was reading a paper written, of course, that you shared with me by Dylan Vernon, and I think he's a member of the Constitutional Reform Committee, correct?
I think he stepped away from it.
No, he's no longer there.
But he wrote a review of what he thinks would be some of the good suggestions, I believe.
Right.
Now, there's one part I that took issue with. And it seems to be a pet peeve of his, the replacing of the Queen as the head of state. Well, now the king, no, the monarch, taking the Queen off of the money and becoming truly independent. And any thoughts about that? Is there a possibility that we can do that at this time, or should do that?
I believe that when a country has a high level of patriotism and maybe nationalism, if you remove, as Jamaica I think is looking to go now, if you move the head of state as being the queen or the king, as in this case, and you put a local instead, I believe that it could in fact psychologically have an upliftment and your patriotic belief. But in reality, it will not make any differences as to how we are being governed, because the Governor General is just a figurehead.
Yeah.
Just a figurehead.
Actually, they're signed with until unsigned.
Yeah. So to me, that is more symbolic. But the symbolism can sort of elevate the patriotic fervor in a society.
There's another side of that too, though, because given the situation, Jamaica does not have a country that has had a claim on them for so long. And that's right next door, much bigger. Given the current climate in the world today, as we are seeing, look what is happening over there in Palestine again. So we have Guatemala next door. One of the hopes that we would have is that we would have somebody would come to our aid. We certainly don't have any resources here that could mount any kind of notable defense, if you will. So I don't know if it's not dangerous in that aspect. For why would we want to distance ourselves from the help that we might get?
Well, you're making a point that Asad Schumann in that same paper had brought out. He said the reason why maybe we have not so decolonized is simply because of the Guatemalan threat.
And it makes sense.
The point you are making is exactly what he said. We remain such because we felt that we needed the British to defend us still against Guatemala.
But not only that, doing that, changing that head of state as such, how will it curb corruption? How will it help governance? How will it stop crime? How will it increase our? Well, you're saying maybe it'll give us a little more confidence in ourselves. It'll take more than that to pull us out of this rut.
Yeah.
And I don't know that the Belizeans being the way they are, that we are too keen on patriotism anyway. We're more concerned about looking out that there's bread in on our table and a chicken in our pot, no?
I see it this way. You change it, fine. I don't think it will bring any harm to us. I don't think it will offend the British to the point that they wouldn't be maybe compassionate towards supporting us in the event that we need to be supported with Guatemalan issue. But I don't think that we changing over would in any way offend them or would any way make it any less better and more receptive to development. So either way you go with it, the simple say, but leave it as it is. And you said it just now. That was never the reason why corruption is where it is, when employment is where it is, when poverty is where it is.
Actually, it has gotten worse after independence.
Exactly. That's the point.
In every
Yeah.
way.
That to me, the only one matter of the more window dressing, or just as I said, to hype you, not to make you feel, boy, we're fully independent.
So if we see no benefit except what you're saying, a possibility of maybe enhancing patriotism, and there's some who believe that the world would be better off without patriotism altogether, because that creates the stuff like xenophobia and all them other harmful paradigms, no? So I don't know that it's worth it if that's the only thing you're saying.
But I don't think it's patriotism that fueled those kind of mentality. I think that nationalism did. Not the patriotism.
But patriotism, well, nationalism is a little different, but they're not. But
they're not far
they sometimes cross. They sometimes cross.
Maybe you are. I think they're different. I see that. Yeah.
Give us one idea. In what way are they different?
If you are a patriot, you are
Right.
saying that you will give your support to your country, but uphold the rule of law.
Right.
You will have a strong belief in yourself as an. Now, if you are dealing with a national interest, you might become offensive to other countries in your national interest. And that's exactly what fuels some of those wars, especially in the case of Germany, particularly because it was the nationalistic movement. That's what happened with Mussolini in Italy, the nationalistic movement. So the nationalism is the one that I think would be more offending to our international community. But patriotism is what all countries should have. Just patriotism.
I don't know. Yeah, I hear you, and I don't know that I fully get. I still don't see a big difference between the two. But all right, it's not worth the argument. But I think that when people are so, I mean, just passionate about this of mine, that almost want territorial kind of thing, and we don't want nobody here. You find the xenophobia, you find the racism, you find the criticism of everybody that does not look or act or live like us, don't believe the things we believe, and that might be the biggest problem that faces mankind right now. This idea of superiority, one is better than the other. Certainly, this is what we're seeing over there in Palestine. The Jews believing that they're chosen people of God, and that they have rights that nobody else should have, or certainly not the Palestinians, no? So I don't know. Again,
if you find that you notice many countries hide behind the national interest when they say they are acting out of the national interest. You never hear them say they act out of patriotism. It's out of the national interest. And
you're talking about.
Look at the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine came out of the United States
interest.
National interest.
Yeah. But I just want to back up a little bit on nationalism and patriotism, because I don't know how real that map I saw of Guatemala and who in Guatemala may have published it, but it shows the annexation of Belize as part of Guatemala. I don't know if you guys have seen that map that has been circling on Facebook.
Somebody circulating that.
Yeah, but it totally removed the border that divides our country, and it shows it as.
I hope it's not Belizeans who are.
No, I don't. No, it's not. Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
I have not. No.
Oh.
That map. I don't know if it's a recent one you're referring to, but that is a map that has come up every now and then. You know.
Yes.
One country.
Yeah. Well,
But
this
see,
definitely have modern graphics, so it is quite recent, and it's first time I'm seeing
Oh, it's
this
another
one.
one then. It's another one. Got
This
them.
one of it.
They had them before. When
Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen it before. I've seen it
well,
before.
listen, nobody can deny that there's a claim.
Mm-hmm.
The claim is there. It's an unfounded claim. And I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking the other day, we had this argument, Joe, about the roads that they're building out there. And I'm thinking that the 1859 treaty is Guatemala's point was that it's no longer valid because we did not fulfill the full terms. The one, and they pointed to the building of a cart road from Guatemala City to the sea. And I'm saying, well, look at now. We got 3 roads at least. We got one to Halacte, we got one to Benque, and one now to Arenal. I believe or Baciana, where the one go to there, into through Mountain Pine Ridge. But that's and we can we not now maybe take that to the court and say, look, that road there was Tech Road, it's a road there. I mean, if that's your only beef, sir, then you got none.
I think the arguments by the international lawyers representing Belize, that road thing won't be necessary because the Anglo-Guatemalan Treaty, the part of it that dealt with the boundary, that is a separate part. Guatemala could repudiate the Anglo-Guatemalan Treaty, but it cannot repudiate the portion when it comes to the border for Belize. Because the border was not, he said it was a recognition. And they were to build the road on that condition. But if it is a recognition...
Okay, I think Gregory is trying to show us the map. Is that it, Greg?
No, yeah, but
it's not.
That would not have cancelled out the recognition. In other words, Guatemala wasn't saying, if you give me the road, I will give you Belize. No, it was not an exchange to say, if you give me the road, I will give you Belize. No, it wasn't that. He said a recognition.
You know that map. If somebody would send that to me, I would immediately delete it. I certainly wouldn't share it.
Well, I'm only sharing it because we need to share it because we need to be cognizant of what's happening in our path that affects our sovereignty as far as influence of what people may may conceive. When you do this, it reaches international audience. It reaches Guatemalan. I have met so many young Guatemalan and so many older Guatemalan. And when I tell them I'm from Belize, the first thing they tell me is, "Oh, Belize is part of Belize had belonged to Guatemala. Or Belize is part of Guatemala." That's the first thing they tell me, and I always have to tell them, "No, Belize is an independent country, and Guatemala has a claim on Belize, but it was never part of Belize." And I have to explain to them that the claim comes from the sovereign when Spain had owned all the Americas, all of Central and Latin America, and based on that, the Guatemalan claim arrived.
Well, see, Spain also, the ownership of Spain, and I always wondered how nobody hadn't brought Spain into the conversation, because Guatemala is claiming that Spain give them
succession.
But Spain got it as a result of this. This Pope
Gregory,
by the way, who split the globe in two and decided half belonged to Portugal and half belonged to Spain. And then, which of course led to the English pirates coming out there and raiding the Spanish ships because they weren't in on it, So I don't. It was not by conquest for sure. So Spain had no authority, no right to Belize, and I think we have even that to fight on our side, and I hope the lawyers that we get to represent us will do the necessary homework and cover all the bases and make sure that all the points in our favor are brought up. Because and I can understand people's skepticism about the courts, because if your case isn't presented well, but I think it's Joe that was telling me that they don't try the cases like that. They try it with the evidence that's before them. Joe, is that it? There's no arguing of points back and forth.
Well, courts. The courts is a place where you take your facts, your evidence, and you apply the law. That's what the courts are for, whichever one it is. So we go to the International Court of Justice. We got to take our facts, and then they apply the law.
Interesting.
And if you look at remember there was a thing the government had prepared with all the various evidence that Belize was going to use before the court, and that was in a package that was prepared and was being circulated throughout the country. Well, definitely,
I didn't see that package. I didn't. Oh.
Yeah, all the high schools are getting it. But there was something that we wanted to raise. I know we came down this road because of that one of the proposal in the constitutional amendment. But what I found very interesting about what Dylan had written and Assad had supported, I believe that for us to do any changes to the constitution, it must be to find a way how we can enforce our political leaders to be accountable. Because the losses what we have failed is not because of the constitution. It was simple a failure to comply with it. That's my belief. No. What I think he's looking to do in the proposal would make sense to me because it is trying to, one, for example, we adopted this separation of powers thing, which is good. But in reality, we do not have the separation of powers. Because
not at all.
We don't, because the executive and the legislature are the same. Majority of the people in the cabinet are from the legislature. So that proposal to deal with that is one, to elect the leader, the prime minister, president, whatever you call him, by popular vote. And let the prime minister then appoint a cabinet from outside the elected representative.
That's correct.
American pattern, no?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
but
yes.
you'll have technocrats as opposed to political cronies. And
not always, but you'll because yeah.
Well, as opposed to people who come in because you might elect somebody as a minister who not got one clue as to there's certainly didn't they appoint an electrician the other day as the Minister of Health who I mean it
but even in the US cabinet sometimes people are not right now. We have someone as transportation secretary, and that person in truth Pete Valadovich or something like that is his name. He had no experience other than being a representative in the House and had presented some bills on transportation, but he wasn't he's not an engineer. He's not a contractor that have built roads. So I don't think it's always will result in technocrats. I think we need to step back and have a professional department like we had it with the permanent secretaries that actually heads the department, the secretary from the cabinet or the cabinet minister that's responsible for that portfolio, right? That ministry will then deal with that professionals that are the permanent secretaries. That's the only way to fix the issues we have. And we have hollowed out the administrative expertise by not creating and maintaining that permanent secretary. So no professional people stays in that office because there's nothing they could do that gives them a level of management responsibility beyond, But
I think, Mr. Morrison, I think that's a matter we could discuss. But I think we were talking about the cabinet. That instead of the cabinet being appointed from the legislature or from the Senate, is to have the cabinet being appointed from outside, something off of the American system. In other words, in the proposal that they were making, is to have the prime minister elected by the popular vote.
I like that.
And then the prime minister.
I don't have a problem with that.
No, I like that.
But let's go to the next stage. Then he will not be appointing the cabinet from among the legislators.
Right. They'll be representing their respective constituencies.
He can appoint Gregory Morrison if he's a Belizean and make him a minister.
The diaspora might like that one.
Right.
But, come on now.
the great help about it is this: he's trying to separate the executive and the legislature. So when you do that, then you will not have the legislators. Where are you going? Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Grandson?
Grandpa, that a birthday boy?
Yes.
All right.
How old is he?
6.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
So what he's saying is that if you do that, then you will find out the executive, the prime minister with his ministers, will have to be accountable to the legislature.
But that makes sense also.
Yeah, but as it is now, they can't be accountable to themselves because the members are the cabinet. So
I know I have to think and see how that will work, because I don't necessarily have a problem with the cabinet being from the elected representative. I have a problem with not having a professional, and that's what I was getting at, not having a professional group to carry out the responsibility and the objectives of the government, right? Right now you have CEOs, and the CEO is by himself. He doesn't have a structure within the I'm thinking of the word, civil service. He doesn't have a structure within the civil service to carry out whatever mandate they're trying to do. Most of the jobs, if you look now, they're parceling it out to private companies, right? And that is done mainly, just let me finish. It's done mainly on, they say, bidding, but it's mainly done on do I know you, and can we work along and get this done, and I make some money and you make some money, you know?
Yeah, well,
that's how it's done.
Gregory, what happened there that the government who started it didn't go along with the reform that was proposed for the whole region.
Yes.
They were not to replace the permanent secretary with the CEO. No.
I think that was a mistake.
They were to remain. And then you bring a CEO. The CEO now comes and goes with the government of the day.
Yes.
The CEO will be there now working along with the minister.
Yes.
And the permanent secretary to make sure that the consolidated funds are used according to the Appropriation Act.
Right.
And that is what it was for, but what they did. And that to me was showing the hands of the government at the time. That they wanted people who were loyal and faithful to them and not to the citizens. So what they did, they removed the permanent secretary and bring somebody that will be faithful and loyal to them.
Yeah.
Let me switch gears here for a minute, because now that you say that, did you see the story where the government appointed 2 new people for the district attorney's office, the DPP's office, district Department
Director of Public Prosecution.
Yeah. One is an assistant and one is a deputy assistant. And there are people who are suggesting that the reason they did it because the DPP is not fulfilling the role that they want her to, which is being subservient to their needs. And they need somebody there to keep her in check and make sure that they can bypass her authority, which they cannot replace her because she has security of tenure. Are you familiar with that situation, Joe?
No, I think you had mentioned it to me briefly this morning. I didn't see the news, but my response to it is simple. This again is that you have a permanent secretary. As when you had a permanent secretary, he is the highest authority within the public service, the highest public officer, except I would say the financial secretary. The financial secretary is the highest. It was the permanent secretary, then the financial secretary, above all the permanent secretaries. No, it is they who will decide the proper complement. Whenever the complement is not satisfactory to meet the demands of the department, they make recommendation, and then perhaps in the next budget, if not the current one, depending on the availability of funds, then they can fill those positions. Well, to me, all of this has gone overboard, so that is why they are having some of these problems in the public sector, because they gone into this open contract, this open vote approach. So if they want to fill 2 positions, for all you know, those two positions can be filled, and they can bring somebody from Jamaica, Guyana, or somewhere else, or from outside the public sector, and just bring them in and give them the job. We should.
But wouldn't they have to justify that hiring?
Well, of course.
You have a DPP.
Of course, but
is it that you don't have a confidence in her? Why would you need two people like that? We're talking about high-paying jobs. These aren't cheap.
I'm saying, Mr. Chairman.
But there's nothing wrong in having a deputy DPP.
What you're doing in the public service, as it should be, and they talk about the way the public service regulations and the way it should be. When the end of the year is coming, you're preparing for your budget 3-4 months before. It is at that point in time you make your recommendation for any increase complement you need. That's when you make it. And then that is when, if it is approved, then by the cabinet first, then it goes to the parliament for approval. And then that becomes a permanent part of the public sector. And it's coming into the staff list, and that's how you have set up the complement.
All right, that's the procedure again. This is the same argument. That's the procedure. How do they justify, because you add to the wage bill, it costs the government more money to put those two positions there. How do you justify the need for those positions? How do you assure us that those two positions will improve the quality of service delivered by this department?
Well, that is what I'm saying. The onus would have been on the permanent secretary to satisfy the cabinet firstly in the budget that there is need for those two. Once the cabinet is satisfied that it is so, then that goes to the parliament in the appropriation bill.
But what I think the crux of the matter is, how do we determine in the current structure the need for additional support? I think it's kind of obvious that the Department of Public Prosecution is not efficient and effective, and it's not meeting its mandate. Is it incompetence, or is it a labor shortage that the person that's there is overworked? Do they really need additional resource to handle the job, right?
To me, Mr. Morrison, I don't think it's an issue for us to really ask whether it is needed or not. To
really, Joe?
No, I'm saying I would not be able to say whether these people are needed or not.
How could you not say that? Can't you look at the performance of the department?
I am not in a position to make that kind of decision or give an opinion on it.
How about ask the question?
I am saying that if you apply the public sector regulations, if you put the public sector in the permanent position as the
but we don't have that right now, so I'm going from what we have.
So that's why I'm saying, if you don't
see, this is it, Joe. This is the problem I have, because you're going on a tangent here.
No, man,
that is not the issue.
Take your examples of what I'm talking about. Do you know the amount of people that are employed in the public sector? Maybe I don't want to say literally every day, but maybe every month.
Yeah.
People have been employed.
Okay, but these are two.
We know a public sector is overweighted. We know that it is not sustainable.
Yeah.
If the DPP is saying, if the director of public prosecution,
so why would we go the other way? Why would we go to adding more as opposed to taking off a few?
No.
Well,
that's
no,
different.
but you might have to add some to fix things, and you may have to let go some that are just sitting around.
All right, so
doing
this comes back to my question: do they need to justify that need?
That's what I was
Joe
asking.
Saying no.
Yeah,
Joe saying we shouldn't even be concerned about that.
Mr. Chairman, if they had carried out what was put in the manifesto to right-size the public service, bring back the permanent secretary, bring back all of those things, then these issues would not be facing us today.
Yeah, but we have to kind of go from where we are. We have to fix what we.
When you go to right-size the public service, and I was the one who recommended in the meeting when I put forward what we should do. That was when we were in opposition, the PUP, and then I used deliberately right size because I didn't want to say we're going to downsize or increase, but we're right size it.
Yes.
So what that meant that we were to go through a process, and it may take us some time with experts to make a determination as to exactly what are the different levels we need, the different, let's call them skills, the kind of skills they use. What is the complement we need? And once that has been done, and we find that we only need, let's say, for example, we need X plus 10. That's what we need. But right now we got X plus 50. The decision then to be made is to how we're going to now bring it to that size. We were not to dismiss those people. They were not to be just giving the other the boot and go.
Retrenchment.
No, we were not recommending retrench. I am telling you because I was in.
No, I understand. I understand.
So what we were to do was this: we were not going to bring any more people into the public sector. Whenever you need, let's say every year people are retiring. When you retire, some goes up to that position where they retire from.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't have the skill set to handle the job, right?
Then what you're going to do then, from among those, that excess that is there, you can begin to now draw from those who are qualified and you make them permanent till eventually you get it to the size you need. It's not something.
But still, that would take 15 years or 10 years or some considerable period of time.
Yes, let's do it now. Let's begin.
Yeah.
But
I agree with you. We need to.
Long. Trust me, it won't take that long. You see, you have to watch the amount of people who are leaving every year. But if you're every year, you are bringing in, this year you win an election. All right. I want to use the term crony. I never like to have to use it. But let's say cronies. Are the people you're going to reward under the patronage system. So you bring in your set. Now, election comes and it changes. You might not be able to get rid of that crowd, so you say, unless if you get rid of it, you go to court, they have appealing. So what you do? You bring in your crowd now.
Yeah.
Then the ones that were there before stay. Yeah. And that is what is happening. They are blowing up the public.
Yeah. And that so we need to find a way that you could only, and that's why we need to fix the public service system.
That's right.
And we need to make sure that the hiring and this positions happens through that legitimate process and not through a political, cronyism.
That's it, Greg. That the contention of those who are currently in the office is that they weren't given the opportunity to even apply for these positions. But and you're absolutely right, and this is the point I am making. We should be able to hold their feet to the fire, to tell us why you need it and how do you justify spending this money on these people. Joe is looking at a different angle. Joe is looking at, is the procedure followed? And if the procedure is followed, that's all we need to be concerned about. But I don't think so. I think we're the ones that are going to have to pay. We're the ones that have to come up with more taxes to foot the bill. So we should be able to say, wait a minute, is it just that you want to find a space for these two people? Or is it that you really need them in that office? If they can justify us and tell us that they need those people, I have no problem with that. If you can tell us that as a result of these people, you will have a higher conviction rate in the courts, we will make sure that these people will do the job they're hired for, and you will get buck for your money. I don't see a problem with that. I don't see how that contradicts the Public Service Act, where they have to follow procedure to do it. Yes, follow the procedure, but give us a justification of why you're doing what you're doing.
I think it comes back to we need to address our chaotic public sector that we have.
Yes.
Which is another problem.
You will hear this kind of. The other day it was within the Attorney General's office. Remember, they were looking to, some of them had they claimed this. They call in sick. Several of them call in sick.
I remember that.
And the Attorney General said, well, he cannot do anything. They said they are sick. But the truth about it was a strike action. And they were striking because they brought some people in, which were not from Belize. And they gave them salaries which was higher than what some of them were getting.
But were they qualified?
Well, I would know.
And was there a need for them? Because now And Greg made the point earlier that some of those people that are there, you might want to move them up, but they don't have the skill set.
You see what happened, again, coming back to any business, whether the public service or private sector. People want to know that when they go into an organization, there's upward mobility.
Yes. And that's why we lose our permanent secretary quality people.
Like that. The public sector is upward mobility.
Well, they have a responsibility to improve their work, to make sure they're qualified to be moved up. Don't you think?
The public sector, every year there is an evaluation, performance evaluation being done on everybody. So therefore, you would not be getting an increment unless you have met the performance standard.
Or unless you're in with the minister, no?
No, but right, I'm talking about the way it ought to be, the way it
ought
was.
to be, I see.
The way it was.
So there is an ought.
But I thought there was there was a automatic increment scale that you get every...
A good report, a good performance report. All right. A vacancy come now for a collector of customs. You know, a senior examiner. Now you have several senior examiners, and there will be maybe one more senior to the other. So, if you're the most senior, is qualified, you are more likely to get the collector post.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have been proving yourself every year. Mm-hmm. And that is how you move up, the upward mobility. That's one of the things that keep you in the public service for the 35 years. Mm-hmm. Because your term of public service is 35 years. Actually, you could make 37 if you begin at 18. So to me, those are the things that they have destroyed. So when you hear these public officers every now and then a burst, it's because they have moved away from a structured, disciplined, well-organized public sector.
Do you think the way it stands now is working, is sufficient?
No.
Okay.
That's not efficient as it should be. No.
But but then shouldn't we be concerned? Shouldn't we be looking for ways of trying to fix this?
And therefore, it's coming back now to the issue of if you do not hold the political directorate accountable in accordance with the Constitution, and the political directorate I'm referring to specifically is the minister, because the legislature approves the Appropriation Act and the cabinet implements the Appropriation Act. So I am saying then the Constitution gives the minister direction and control over all the departments under him or her.
So let me ask you a question then.
To hold them accountable.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Cowie. Since they're bringing in so many people through political appointment into the civil service, they're civil servants, but they don't not within the civil service ranks. How then how is that in contravening to the current Constitution? It is not. It is just a chaotic practice that demoralize the true committed and people that have gone through the public service procedure of getting a government job. And now you have someone that's coming in that just appointed, but because the minister appointed him, he sits ahead of the established public service protocol, right? So how do we work with that? That's where they need to start fixing it. There's nothing wrong with our civil servant structure. There's something wrong with the chaotic way that both governments have practiced this way of bringing people in as part of their giving them something back for their political support.
My honest professional and experience, judgment and opinion, no government will ever be able to effectively and efficiently carry out any manifesto commitment from the election without having an efficient and effective public sector. They just won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
Well, because the public service are the ones that do the heavy lifting. So
they're the ones that's supposed to do the job.
Yeah.
The ministers are not there to do the job, The ministers are there to see that the job get done.
And collect the money. Listen, are we gonna at some point you think get to this political reform and this constitutional reform? Will the constitution be
I don't think they're trying to fix any of those things with the reform they're doing, because those
yeah,
things could be fixed by just amending the bad practices they're doing now.
this might be why Dylan stepped away, whether he had to step away or did it on his own, and is now able to present a view from here, because I don't know if the intent was really to change the constitution and make it better, but maybe change it to make it work for them to work easier, whatever plan they
Can't
have.
hold
No?
them accountable for whatever they're doing.
Right, they're kind of like on Trump wanting to not be held accountable for anything that he does as a president. And he's trying to do a similar exercise over there, I think.
I really don't know what the intent of this constitutional reform was. It wasn't explained to us what the intent is. They just throw everything out there.
But here's the sad thing, Gregory. The sad thing is that maybe 1% of Belizeans have ever opened the Constitution and read any of it. They don't know what's in it. How do you know what you're going to change?
Yeah. And our Constitution is loaded. It has so many pages already.
Well, it's one of the biggest they say, no?
And I'm afraid that whatever we're planning on doing to it will just make it more difficult for the regular people and most people to venture into it, you know?
Well, don't we have a civics class in schools anymore where they teach things like this?
I don't think they do. I don't think they do.
I mean, it's important. If you want the citizens to be involved, Joe, which is what you've always cried about as one of the things that we need to implement.
Ignorance is to the benefit of the government, whichever one is in power. The ignorance of the people, their rights, not knowing their rights, not knowing how to advocate for it, is what the government counts on every day, so that
to
they
the benefit
look like
of the government, but not to the government of the people and the country.
Correct.
And that's the difference, I think. And that has to be the priority, not what they want.
And that's where we need some true patriots in establishing our governance. That's where we need people that view.
I am not that cynical, but I agree that more should be done, much more. But I don't think that the politicians, even the worst among us, deliberately sets out to make sure that the people do not get educated. I don't buy that in Belize. I don't think that is so.
You don't think, but why then don't they require that we have civics classes? Why don't they require that we learn about our constitution and our national history?
They do have civic classes. They do have ethic classes. They do have them. They have at UB. They do have.
I'm talking in primary school now. I'm talking in the primary level.
Have them in primary schools. What I'm trying to get over is that we are not teaching them the Constitution as such per se. But to me, to suggest that the government deliberately is withholding information from citizens because it is a benefit, I don't buy that. I am saying that there are things that maybe they should be doing in the school that they are not doing. But I don't think it's a deliberate intent on their part to keep the people, because they can't keep people ignorant.
Yeah,
but they're certainly not promoting the.
They may not be promoting it, but I don't need the government to tell me about the Constitution. I took it.
But you, some people have that self-motivation. You do. I do.
Most people don't.
The chairman does. But most people don't care. They're just on an existence of survival.
Mr. Morrison, if they don't care, you can't blame the government for that. We're blaming the government for things which we are responsible for. What about them?
That is true.
Mothers and fathers who brought them in?
But I don't think he was blaming the government for that. But not wanting to learn here. He's blaming the government for the government not wanting to teach, because the government is the one they run the schools. They develop the curriculum. They put things in place that should and should not be.
What would you say?
I mean, if we just back up, if you police officers go through a 9-month training and they get a 1-week training on ethics, how is that promoting ethics in our society?
But I'm thinking that the point that we need to make, and I'm going to see if I could make an attempt at it. I think sometimes we expect too much of government. Too much.
I agree.
No. We begin with our responsibility in the home. That's where it begins. And I would agree that if the government who has the responsibility to provide healthcare and education to the people through the same welfare approach by taxing the people, then to me, you make that available to people. So you are not making us equal. The government will never be able to make us equal, and it shouldn't.
No, and I'm not talking about equal.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying, but what they must do is give us equal opportunity. Now, if in the equal opportunity being given to us to be equal, the government left out something in the school that we believe should be there. As Evanex was advocating for years to bring in African history and Mayan history, and eventually they introduced it. The point I was trying to make a while ago is that I don't think that any politician in this country set out deliberately to not have people get access to certain information. I don't think they are doing it as a part of their platform.
So you think when they promote that the 10th of September, politicians go and promote that the 10th of September is not real and the Battle of St. George's Key is all made up, you think that they're not deliberately in policies affecting how the educational process and what is taught and what's in those textbooks? Is that what you're saying to me?
No, I don't think that's what I'm saying. I don't know of any government that came out deliberately and said, burn the textbooks or burn the history books that talk about the Battle of St. George's Key. No, what politicians have said, and beginning with George Price, that they don't believe that the battle was as it was said it was. That's what they've been saying. But they are not saying that you must burn all the history books in this country that has anything to do with the Battle of St. George's Key.
Joe,
everybody have access if they so wish.
You spoke about...
You put an incredible amount of burden on people that are ignorant and should be educated in the process on their
But Mr. Morrison,
patriotism. And
if you have primary school available to you, and let's say we begin with reading, writing, and arithmetic, and then from there we begin to move on to whatever else. You will tell me now that if a government had not maybe introduced some aspect, let's say the Constitution, which I agree should have been, but the Constitution not being a part of a curriculum, I would use that to indict the government as being deliberately doing it to keep the people in ignorance as to how we are.
But I do, and see, that's where we differ. I believe that when the government doesn't inform you on your rights.
But Mr. Morrison, how many graduates you have in this country from secondary school? We got a lot of graduates from secondary school. We got a lot of graduates with associate degree. We have a lot of graduates from UB. You are telling me those graduates cannot get hold of a copy of the Constitution and read?
I agree. Don't you think in our current structure of things, the government benefits more from the population and the citizens being ignorant about their rights?
No, I don't think so. I disagree strongly. I have some serious differences with politicians, not generally, but certain politicians on both sides of the fence.
Oh, yeah, but yeah. I'm not indicting any party on this.
I think
any
political party,
individual party.
I don't think any of the two political parties in this country have ever set out to deliberately undermine the intellectual development of the people of this country. I don't think they did it.
But,
that's where we differ. I believe
the Constitution is, yes, they say, bigger than it ought to be, but all in all, it's not that big. That one small book.
It's bigger than it's big. The United States is 3 pages. If that much.
We're not comparing. I'm saying,
no, I'm just saying.
Speaking, the book as compared to the Bible or any other book that they teach in school.
Yeah.
The Constitution.
Oh my God! We hope it's not we hope it's not as big as the Bible, because that contradicts itself so much.
But say you don't want to make this point. I don't know why. I am saying that it can be taught in the schools with little difficulty. If
Yeah.
only in the high schools.
How
There
many
it is.
pages is it?
It's
72?
not that big a book.
Here
It's
is the constitution of the country. Here it is.
right. So it's bigger than it has to be.
Now let me show you. Let me show you something here.
How many
It's
pages? Do you know the
162 pages. No, look at the
162.
American Constitution.
Yeah.
This is the American Constitution.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me show you how many pages it has.
I think it's like 6 or 7 pages.
No, it has more than that.
Okay,
It has
how many?
28 pages.
28 pages. Okay.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
So
And you know how many pages they have in the
I will not
South
judge
African Constitution?
yeah, but I will not judge a book by the amount of pages it has.
We do in terms of a constitution because it makes it more complicated for
No.
the appreciation of the people,
So I think what happened,
especially when we have a low level of appreciation for it. You know.
You
no, what I'm saying,
without saying intelligence.
no, what happened with the American Constitution, when they did the American Constitution, it was primarily and almost exclusively to talk about the rights of the people.
Yes.
That's what they did.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
The
And they
Belize,
didn't have as many words in the vocabulary.
the Belize Constitution that came up after, long after, many hundreds of years after,
Yeah.
give you also the rights of the people. And if you had stopped there, the Constitution of Belize would have been maybe about 15 pages.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference with this constitution and this one is that the Belize Constitution, like many constitutions today all in the Caribbean, went on to set up the public sector as to carrying out the rights of these people, the rights under the Constitution. This one did not do that. It gave you the rights.
So we have a better one.
Well, I would say it is better. I would think that once the Constitution lays out your rights, that is important. That's the substance of Constitution. Except that we went far, as many countries did after.
But can I make this point again, or try to make this point again? It's not that big that they cannot teach it in the schools.
Exactly.
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct.
So I mean, even if you start from first farm, how long is it going to take you to teach?
Well, if you start from standard 4.
Standard 4, then let's go a little earlier than that. But you're starting to get them interested in the runnings of the country, how the country is run, and get involved and get knowledgeable of the workings of government. I don't see a problem with that. I want to go back to something you were talking about though with the African and Mayan history that they started. Don't you think we have a lot of history right here in Belize from 1798 to current that we can also focus on some? Don't we have our own history?
We have history from 1638 when it was first settled.
Okay.
You know,
and
all that is important.
Was it not more important?
To Mr. Price credit, you may give a speech. I think it was at the Toledo College or one of them, and I think that speech was read at the funeral. And what he said before we know about the Nile, he said we should know about the Belize River. Mm-hmm. He said we must learn about the things around us first and learn about our country before we learn about the others.
That's the point.
Not to learn about the others.
Yeah.
He said, but before, and he used the Nile. He said, before you learn about the Nile, you should learn about the Belize River.
Yeah.
So I agree that we should know the history of our country, not to the exclusion of other history.
Of course. You need international history.
So we cannot expect that those of us who will do history in school, which we all should at the beginning, then after that it become a choice, that you will not be able to teach history in its fullest sense. You can only select certain history and you teach that in school. Now the rest of history you can learn on your own.
Okay.
History is one of the subjects that any one of us would agree is easily done by correspondence because it's more about reading and understanding. Though you can't teach mathematics so easy by correspondence. You can't just read maths and learn it. You have to be taught more about maths. But once you reach a certain level in school, many things you can do without a teacher Once you learn to read, and history is one of them, you can read history right now at our age. All we can read history. And we don't need no teacher to teach you history. Once we learn to read and write and comprehend. So to me, the Constitution is not something that is beyond a student who has an associate degree to read it and understand it.
Yeah, but it's not. Maybe, well, then maybe they have to put it in more attractive terms, and not so.
Well, maybe it is strong. They can put it in words that they believe might be more widely understood. No, I don't agree.
And easier to read.
Yeah, I don't agree too much in underrating the common man, as we call them, because sometimes, you try to put the simplest of words to let people understand something, when in fact, we need to learn to use words. We need to understand the meaning of words. You have a dictionary, buy one. You got a phone.
Joe, I think you're confusing what is and what ought to be. We know what ought to be.
No, I'm not confusing them, but I agree with you that I am speaking of them. So I thought first with me, I try to see things the way they are first. Then I can better judge as to what are the things the way they are. But I can't determine whether something good or bad until I know how it ought to be. So I have to know how the public sector ought to be structured. Then I can say, boy, I don't agree with the way it is structured. I have to understand how we ought to be governed by this Constitution. Then I can evaluate the performance of a government. So
but even as you speak of that, the problem, there's nothing wrong with our Constitution why we should be changing it. There's nothing that prohibits a good functional government based on the constitutional document we have right now. What is happening?
Sorry, go ahead.
I would say what is happening is that they're not following the Constitution even as it is right now. And so even creating a new Constitution, there's no guarantee that these men, women will be following what it is. So we're going through a futile exercise that could put us in more danger, losing some of our rights, creating more chaos in the society, I
think your premise is partly faulty and it's partly true. It's faulty in the sense that every constitution, whether it's of a country, whether it's of an organization, whether it's for your business, you should be reviewing it periodically. No, I'm not saying that every year you change your constitution, but evidently, sometime along the way, you will have to make some changes to it.
Of course.
No,
but that's not what our government is proposing to do right now.
The part of it that might be true, that you are saying, is that if we had applied the Constitution in its fullest extent, we'll be in a better position to know what to improve on it.
That's my point.
I agree with that. That's the part I fully support.
Joe, is there anything in the Constitution you believe should be changed? What would you prioritize?
I support the idea that we should separate clearly the cabinet from the legislature. I support that. I would support the popular vote for the prime minister, which ties in with that. I would seriously look at the issue of constitutional, electoral elections. Whether we should move from past the post to maybe more proportional representation. I think we should look at more oversight issues within to ensure that the government will be held accountable more to the people, other than what we have now, which we are not even enforcing. So there is some of those same things that the land have spoken about.
Anything about campaign financing?
That's not in the I don't think that needs to be in the Constitution. But
not the Constitution. That won't be in the Constitution. But you can do that right now without touching the. In fact, we had the draft for it. We had the draft.
Yeah.
One of the problems we need to talk about now, since you mentioned campaign financing. Campaign financing legislation is not something that we should just grasp on or want to do, Now, let me tell you why.
Yeah.
I would agree that it's good to make sure that people understand that a party receives funding. And to some extent, it should be allowed to account for the funding it receives. Gentlemen, we live in a small society. How many people you think would like to know that their names are there to say which party they give funds to?
Yeah.
You think that will go down?
You mean the people who are giving money to the political parties?
How would you like in a small society for all of us to know who are the donors to who?
Well, in
I
the
would like to
small,
know. I would like
yeah,
to know.
yeah,
I would
and
like
You would like
because
to
I
know.
want to see I want to see those
Would you like
people.
to know? You would like to know who they give, but would you like to know who you are giving? You would mind
Yes,
who you're giving.
yes. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind because
yeah,
I wouldn't mind. I
mind.
wouldn't
you
mind.
will see the perks that they get in return, and you'll be able to say,
Exactly.
"Well, hold on, this
This is
might
how
be
this
why
is
this
playing
is
out.
happening."
Yes.
No, you can do the campaign finance reform and let your name be seen, and then we not do the reform of the mindset.
Yes.
No,
That
you're
could be
gonna your
dangerous. Yeah.
finance, your finance the PUP, and UDP win. You better forget it. Because you're not gonna
Yeah.
Well, and then
No,
you
no,
talk
but
about
I
small
think you could.
society,
I
though.
think you could structure political party campaign financing without making all those full disclosure of stuff. You know,
That's
of
that's what I want.
Yeah,
In
I
other
think
words,
you could do that. But
that's right.
but we would like to know, for example, how much money the political party received
That's right.
in
Can
terms of
we
funds.
can we
We
ask
want
that
to know in what
over a
time
certain
frame they
amount?
received those funds. You know, those are the things. I don't think you necessarily have to publish all donors and stuff, but knowing some of the critical and
What
important
you want to know,
information.
what you want to know is, listen, one, under the campaign law, a list of things will be cited at which you can spend on.
Exactly.
Circumscribe the type of things you can spend on,
Yes.
and you have to spend within that. That is
Yes.
what they would audit you for.
Yeah.
Two, you will have to account for the total amount of money you are receiving.
Exactly.
You have to account for the spending of it. And the surplus that remain will remain there. You cannot touch it unless the party decides that they want to use it in another election. So there are some things that I think we can put in, but some of the things then we have to be careful as to what we want to put into the campaign. You see, this issue of campaign finance, one of the big concerns about campaign finance to me is simple that we believe, and it's a fact, that people out there, mainly business people, are financing both parties.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
No, we know, the public knows, those of us who have the interest in wanting to know who are the people that are financing these parties. We know them. You don't have to list them.
Yeah.
And then when the election finish, you will know them. Oh, guys, you want to sit there to get the contracts.
Yeah.
So to me, they're not so much after who they give and how much they give. And again, I would limit the amount. That in other words, there are some things that I think should be done. One, you will limit the amount that can be given. Two, you have to account for what you're spending on. You have to, the law will circumscribe what you can spend on. Three, you have to remain accountable for it. It has to be audited. And the funding, the surplus, cannot be used.
Yes.
But preceding all that, you have to have the political parties registered first too.
Yes. Yes. Political party registration.
Have to give legal status before you can even come. You can't have campaign laws without having political parties having legal status.
Register. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So,
but I wanted to ask you, what's the benefit of having the political party registered?
Because
what's the benefit of that?
You cannot hold political parties accountable because they don't have any legal status.
Okay.
You have natural persons who are accountable. You have persons that are accountable. All these trustees, these NGOs, they are all legal persons.
Yes.
But a political party has no status in terms of...
So you're saying you can't sue a political party per se right now in Belize?
That's right.
I see.
But once they're registered, you can sue them.
Right. Once they have a legal status, they can be sued, they can sue and they can be sued.
Okay.
They can own assets. They have to be able to also account for the assets that they have. They have to be audited. These are part of the... Once they have them registered.
And pay taxes, because right now I don't think any of our political party pay any taxes.
Well, you won't make them pay taxes, but...
No, I'm just kidding. No, but they should pay taxes in some
let's
way.
say the tax. Let's say the tax. They should be able, made to account
Okay.
through financial statements, and they need to be audited so that you know exactly what is it that they owe and what they own. They should.
Speaking of taxes, should churches pay taxes?
No, churches don't pay taxes.
No, I didn't say whether they do or not.
No,
Oh,
they
you
shouldn't.
want they should?
Yeah.
No, I don't want them to.
No, I don't think they should pay taxes.
I don't want
Why?
them to.
Why would you want them to? Greg?
That taxes are paid by people by entities that make profit.
Are you kidding me?
But no, the churches are profit centers.
Do you see
but
how
I
much some of
I
these
like to
preachers
keep
have?
I like to keep the separation. I like to keep the separation.
No, make
Church
it clear.
and state.
No, make it clear this up. Taxes, all part of the world, is paid one by your personal income or from business income.
Yes.
You don't pay taxes otherwise, except they have some taxes.
But churches,
If somebody
churches
gives
have
you
lots
some
of
money,
income.
if
Churches have
somebody
lots of
gives you
income.
money, don't you pay taxes on that?
No.
No?
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
Now, if you want to tax, all right, let's say you want to have death tax or inheritance tax, that you die, or when you die, what you leave behind go to your children and you tax your children. We had that one time, but they abolished that. Most countries don't tax those things again. So if somebody decides you don't want NGO, you're an NGO, registered as an NGO, a philanthropic person say, listen, I want to contribute to an NGO. The NGO doesn't pay tax on that contribution to them. Remember, they're not profit driven. They are more for philanthropic purposes. They don't have income. They don't have an income. An earned income. They don't earn the. When they sell the NGO, then they sell nothing. How you want the churches?
Well, I'm not saying to tax NGOs because they're
churches tax religious bodies. Then religious institutions.
Yeah, no, I don't want to. I don't want to tax.
Well, the chairman want tax me. All right, good.
I want tax them. Yeah, I want, in particular, those big evangelists that making all that kind of money. I have 4 or 5 jet planes and whatnot. The one my name, the famous black evangelist my name, and he ran out of Rolls Royce. He say he had 16 Rolls Royce, and the only way he never got more because he ran out of colors and never make no more. What him in here, Gregory?
I don't remember, but he was
famous
before my
man.
time. Yeah, he was before my time.
Yeah. But I mean, and they're still there today. Joel Osteen. He's worth millions.
Yeah.
Now, it's funny because if you get millions, you have to pay your taxes, but he is covered under that and not have to pay none. I think that I would consider it.
I would say, Mr. Chairman, I know we were on the taxes just now, but we don't have. I think we should have. I don't know if you had the list with you. I'm sorry I didn't bring it with me. But there was some other recommendations which I think quickly we can mention. For example, he wanted to suggest, and I agree with him, to remove some of those rights where we have under the preamble, because the rights under the preamble are not part of the Constitution, and to put them to the section that makes them a right under the Constitution. And I agree with that, like things with education and health, etc.
So you're saying what's in the preamble is not in the Constitution?
No, it's not the Constitution per se. That's not the.
It's the desire of the people.
Yeah.
Let's see what our friend is saying. He's been quiet the whole show. I think he's been listening there. Inexperienced and uneducated political leaders lack the knowledge and expertise to address complex political and social issues. That leads to poor decision-making and ineffective governance. Holding political office comes with a great deal of responsibility. It includes making crucial decisions that impact the lives of citizens. Inexperienced individuals may struggle to handle these responsibilities, leading to chaos and instability. All right, I'm trying to figure what you're getting at there, though. Well, maybe it's the ministers that are holding the portfolio that he's concerned about.
I think what he's saying is very obvious, and sometimes they take the genius and have a seat. He say inexperienced and uneducated. Now, why should you have an inexperienced and uneducated person being elected? But if you say, why, yeah, you don't have to be educated, you don't have to be experienced. You can still run away elect you. What do you expect?
Well, that's why we need. That's why we need a professional. That's why we need a professional civil service to manage the governance.
But I want to finish on what that gentleman is saying.
Okay.
Because you can have now the educated person and you can have the experienced person. But what I look at the ethical standards, which covers integrity, technical competence, and all the other things that you need to hold an office, a political office, as a legislator, as a minister. So to me, you cannot have an uneducated person. You should not have an educated person. You should not have an inexperienced person. And you should not have an educated person and an experienced person without the proper ethical standards and integrity. So at the end of the day,
but the point is, I believe that you should be able to elect whoever you want. I don't care if that person has
that
a
is why
PhD degree or if that person is a dropout from high school.
Greg,
I don't have a problem.
That is why I like the idea of the person elected for as a representative for his constituency be assigned to that role of taking care of your constituency, and then yes, elect the prime minister, let him appoint his cabinet from technocrats. I would be in favor of that.
But Mr. Gregory, let me ask you a question. You have your business, your family-owned business, let's say, you have a big business. You need a CEO to run your business. I bet you want to look for somebody who is qualified to run that business.
Yeah, but see, that's where I agree with the chairman that the politician that represent the constituents is a different individual that's actually running the government.
That's a mistake we are making. You want to tell me that you don't mind who the person is because he don't want you the elect as one legislator, you know. We can't have a representative.
Yes.
But he's
yes. I mean, I don't want a jackass because that's where we're getting into trouble, right?
I don't know how you get to that point, Joe. Nobody was saying that, actually.
No, I'm saying to you, one of the things that I would advocate for, I would take the requirements to run for the legislature beyond simple 18 years of age, being able to speak English. And
but that's what we have. That's what we have, and we have the corruption and we have the mismanagement that we have now.
No,
none of these people are. We have one or two people that we could say
the context of amending the constitution. I am saying to you, maybe we should now look at whether we should not seek for certain qualifications for people to run for this office.
We should not, or we should?
We should.
Okay.
We can't continue to have just because he's 18 years old.
But that's not the problem that we're having in our governance, Mr. Cowie. That's not the problem we're having. The problem we're having is that the lawyers are scheming us. We have the problem that the business people are scheming us. The ones that have gone to college and they're misusing the knowledge they have and not to the benefit of the people. Yes, we have a few people within our system that have not gone to college, but they are not the problem. They're not the big problem in our system.
Mr. Morrison, let me tell you what you are doing. Let me take your same logic and use it back on you. You are saying because the lawyer offended the Constitution, this one offended the Constitution, the professional person. You are saying then we don't need people with that kind of qualification. That's not
what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. You misusing what I'm saying.
I think that a lawyer has an asset to be an area representative because he will be a legislator. If you look in America right now, look at the congressmen. Nearly all of them are lawyers.
Because but a good many of them are. They're trained in the fine art of sophistry. They know how to frame words and put things in context that will make people vote for them even when they're telling a lie.
But I keep up on that one. I can't. I want to leave it.
Anyway,
listen, that's what I'm saying.
My point is this: I look at what I think you ought to be. These are the requirements you have. Though there is a thing called internal controls, which is supposed to be used in your constitution or in the provisional laws. So what I do, I say, you meet the qualifications for the CEO for my business. I act on the assumption that you will be honest. But what I do,
Yes.
I put in place internal controls that if you snap, I can pick you up in a timely manner and I can address it. So to me, what we want to do is not to say because you're a liar, you will be dishonest, so we don't want you. No.
Oh no, I didn't. That's not my point. I think when we overburden our legislature with lawyers,
and then you put in place.
Joe, you have an uncanny ability of locking out somebody when you make a point. You know why?
He's a politician. He's a politician.
Listen,
a politician is just having a passion for what I believe in, and I'm sorry about it. Sometimes I make the mistake.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing you.
We're out of time. We're out of time, guys. Any final thoughts before we go? It is 9 o'clock straight up.
Well, my final thoughts, Mr. Chairman, is that this show, for the first time I've been in a show where just the three hosts happen to be the three guests.
And what we shall do that make you the guest? We want to do that week and discuss the whole.
Go here with the three of us. I'm not saying we don't need guests, but I think we covered a lot of grounds. You know why? We are touching on the rights of the citizens. We were touching on that constitution, which I think is very important. If we do not get this right, and if we do not get some of those things right as to how we are to be governed, we will never be able to evaluate who are governing us. So that to me is important.
Gregory?
I agree that we need to understand more on our constitution. We need to make it more democratic. We need to get it out there, more people to read it. And I don't think that making it a thicker document, a more complex document, is going to move in that direction. So I am, for one, believe that we should make it as limited in terms of words and pages and stuff as we can, and probably less than the 127 pages I think you had counted.
62, I think he said. 162.
Yeah, 162. I think if we could cut it down to probably 100 pages, we'll be doing ourselves a favor and we'll be endearing our citizens.
All right. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Let's continue. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Until then, free Palestine. Let's have the world at peace, please. Let's go. See why we're out of here.
Yo, DJ, are you done mixing yet?
Your DJ has only just begun.
The DJ accepts no responsibility for the next record. This is a request.
Yo, what the baddest mix this? No man, not tell me nothing. Yeah. Racism is alive and well. If we as black people and people of color don't get ourselves together, form some kind of identification, foundation with the talk economically to scholar, capitalism building. Capitalism is real. Listen to me, Lord. Racial profiling. It's a serious thing, a bird without wing. Racial profiling. Listen, me king, this on your top of ranking. Racial profiling. It's a serious thing, a bird without wing. Racial profiling. I saw the thing set in a this system. I cannot breathe. Living while black, much less gonna Starbucks. Living while black, up against the clan. Living while black, life in my hand. Living while black, Calamus in we under constant attack. Master race, master plan, the drive we hold it back. Smoke it on, little rhythm, give me one drop. Your movements, they just can't stop. But I cannot sell water as a POC. Hermit party will call the COP. I cannot enter a pool as a POC. Pool patrol parlor calling the COP. If I am grilling in the park as a POC, barbecue Betty will call the COP. If I check into an AR and B, my persuasion cannot be a for POC. Racial profiling is a serious thing. Burning a wing. Racial profiling. Living me king is on your top around skin. Racial profiling is a serious thing. Burning a wing. Racial profiling. I saw the thing set on a day that she said feeling emboldened. golden. Yo, them lips loose like Snowden. Like they don't know, say we are the chosen. Them entitled and privileged. Them could call another human race savage. It's nothing but a sacrilege when we get used as collateral damage. Racial profiling, it's a serious thing. Bird without wing. Racial profiling. Listen, me king, this on your top of ranking. Racial profiling, it's a serious thing. Bird without wing. Racial profiling. So the thing set in a this a shit sting. Overdosing pon the Kool-Aid. Them consume with disdain and hatred. The masses is tired of being berated. And like that civil wars get started. All due to them policies. Ripping apart families, privately owned jails, housing babies, and then them sleeping with we enemies. Racial profiling, it's a serious thing. Bird without wing. Racial profiling, listen, making this on the paparazzi. Racial profiling, it's a racial profiling. Them claims that them a Christian, embodiment of Satan, like robots, they program, fi mimic the administration. Aye. Europeans, magicians, deflection, distraction, things that we forget about the collusion. Right now, then they look for lift the sanction. Chain immigration applicable only to the black. And what about him and the nuclearization? Like Palestinians, mass incarceration, no equitable education. All them a preach about the division, hell-bent on world domination, depopulation, spending trillions on space. In a higher meditation, love of religion. You don't see nothing yet, you don't hear nothing yet, you don't know nothing yet. You better not say nothing yet. You want to know how someone is not dead yet? Eradicate all threats. Oh. Living in a Bobby wrong, and nothing nice. Life no have no value, but death's got a price. What's all 2 foot mice, because planting no they eat like rice. Living in a Bobby wrong, and nothing nice. Life no have no value, but death's got a price. What's all 2 foot mice? Planting no they eat like rice. Surviving to me, it's my Kongin achievement. Now my main objective is just to stay on the pavement. I see cats go from showity to obscurity. Self-inflicted mental enslavement. All I ever needed was just a little taste. No, I'm after the paper like Gregory at Chase. The industry is trying to welcome me back like Mace. All bad boys, don't watch your face. I'm getting into cats' pockets before they go get in mine. I spit 82 bars before the replay could bust a rhyme. And the moms of shine is like a moms of mine. Big ups to all my cats on the grind. Rapping ain't easy, but I've done put in my bid. It's like the devil's playground, you can't be scared or timid. One life I've got, many lives I'll give. Cold talk, you know, we keep it frigid. BX 168 Gerard, but I treat the Big Apple like yard. We could do this my way, we could do this hard. Back off slowly or start talking to God. If it ain't assets or plastics, you ain't got no money. If it ain't high grade, you're not rolling the bunny. If it ain't litter, it ain't sweet like honey. All thanks to Jah, even my nights is sunny. You could have $1 in a dream, but you've got to be asleep. You could be the president, you just got to pick the right beat. You can't be friends with everyone you meet. Ain't nothing nice in the NYC street. But if the devil offered you water, would you die of thirst? If you've seen an old lady, would you snatch her purse? Would you mind being second if you couldn't be first? Would you mind clapping guns as I rate this verse? And I do what I do like I'm doing it for a feature. You be the creature, reverse your polarity, go against your nature. See how many of these niggas is really gonna hate you. Living in a Bobby wrong, and a nothing nice. Life no have no value, but debt's got a price. What's all 2 foot mice, because plantain no they eat like rice. Living in a Bobby wrong, and a nothing nice. Life no have no value, but debt's got a price. What's all 2 foot mice? Plantain no they eat like rice. I'll make you black hotter than Belize and Tamale. You'll be assed out like Usay and Kusay. Who say at the end of this code you can't dangle? I'll stroll past your makeshift memorial and blow out your candle. Tip it like Fandango. You'll turn a lot of state of pale. I ain't afraid of no ghosts, another brag, another boast. East Coast, West Coast, anniversal. I'll leave you stuck at rehearsal. Reversal of fortunes. Time to let the light shine like the Neptune. Then evap to the boondocks. Still keep it in the car. Still be gritty. Still be nutty. The only reason to blow through the city is to scramble brain dead challenges. I'm bullets like Wall Street. Gojin or battlers like ballistic heat. I keep it constant, consistent, potent. It's with bad intent I spit. Let them know. Lots of goons moving it. If I can't dazzle him with brilliance, I'll have to baffle him with bullshit. I'm here setting trends, believe it. Living in a Bobby wrong, and a nothing nice. Life no have no value, but debt's got a price. What's all 2 foot mice, because plantain no they eat like rice. Living in a Bobby wrong, and a nothing nice. Life no.
Apex predator, so treat me like a barracuda from outer Belize water, or like a polar bear from outer Alaska. If I'm a snake, then call me a black mamba. Apex predator, so treat me like a barracuda from outer Belize water, or like a polar bear from outer Alaska. If I'm a snake, black mamba. Right now we sit down on top of the food chain, over vast territory, and I'm on the rain. Serengeti, when I'm a domain. If you don't find no bones, then we take the blame. Concrete jungle, rugged terrain. Look at the color and the size of my mane. We no play close, much less play games. We not do this for likes nor fame. I've had the disposition of a bald eagle. Miles above earth we don't set the table. Spook your herd, watching you scramble. Pick off the weak and the vulnerable. Don't win, you know a tight circle. And knock off the one knee, everything in a trouble. On the double, because you're gullible. You cry for help, won't get muffled. Yo, we strike fear in the heart of beasts and men when we hold. What's this? You that buzz at the wrist, you the move foul. Lone wolf when with the scout, or with the pack when with the prowl. Check the size of my insiders when I growl. Relentless pursuit, separate you from your crowd. Even you have to run up on the curve. King, no master we deserve. Track you through your third. Yo, 0 to 60 in 30, some of the bucking 45. Fittest survive. Ear spin back, pre-visualize your demise while protecting my pride. Sole purpose is to provide, a lot easier with my lioness by my side. Natural selecting, speed of a peregrine. Radar can't detect my timing. Radar can't detect my timing. Apex.
Money is not the root of all evil. It's love of money. That's the root of all evil. Right, yes or no? Vibes live. Everything come and baby. Keep a close eye on the devil. Higher state of consciousness with the revel. Papa Curry, yeah, we tell the people. Pounds and pence, dollars and cents. Most important sense, the common sense. But enough man thinks, they don't know the difference. Fatal flaw, them have to pay the consequence. You have pounds and pence, dollars and cents. Most important sense, the common sense. But enough man thinks, don't know the difference. Fatal flaw, them have to pay the consequence. They grass greener on the next side of the fence. For a few dollars more, and it them like that they met them, robbing them with them sister, them friends, and them parents. Yet them still content. Fool no know about the dog when they got the bones in the shadow. For the rest of them life, me hope them live it in a sorrow. Don't make me catch the beg the plea, they cry, they try borrow. They have to check with you tomorrow. Pounds and pence, dollars and cents. Most important sense, the common sense. But enough man thinks, they don't know the difference. Fatal flaw, them have to pay the consequence. You have pounds and pence, dollars and cents. Most important sense, the common sense. But enough